industries, um, be it in the US or everywhere else around the world. He is somebody that has truly helped a lot of people, and we're going to be getting his insight on several things. He's really going to make sure that he opens up to us so that we can learn a lot from him. And he has powerful stories. Believe me, I've had conversations, numerous conversations with the man, and I truly respect him. He's also verified on IG, Facebook, and other social media platforms. So if you want to share that social digital currency with them, go right ahead and do so. That said, we are going to be starting right now. And thank you to everybody who has come through. I also see Shakir is here. Elena, that's Shakir. All right, I'm going to.
That is Shakir. Yes, he's one
All
of the
right, there we
journalists as
go.
well that's going to be blogging about your celebrity
Oh,
guests.
all right, thank you very much. So, right now, we're going to be starting off. And Dr. Pervis, thank you very much for coming through. We are going to be getting straight into the questions. So we're going to have three phases of questions just for anybody who likes to keep track of what it is that we're doing. We're going to have introductory questions. We're going to have career-centered questions. We're also going to have some questions to do with his book, the number one best-selling book. Then after that, we'll open up the floor to the audience. So do make sure if you have any pressing questions that you want to ask, you leave them in the chat box. There's a chat function that you can access. Just type in something and we will be able to get to that once we are done with the first question. So these are some of the questions that the team and I were setting up. So the first question, Dr. Pervis, right? We're going to get into it. Who is Dr. Pervis? Who is he to you? And who do you think he is to the world? The floor is yours, Dr. Pervis.
Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go right ahead.
Okay. Um, to me, I'm Pervis from Lancaster, Texas. Country boy, oldest of three children, and I'm a man who loves to dance. I love life, and I love hanging out with my friends, and I love helping people. That's who I am. To me, I'm the boy that has overcome a lot of things and experienced a lot of things that probably a lot of people should not experience. Um, that's who I am. To me, I'm somebody who's a fighter. But I think to the world, I'm not quite sure. I think I'm many things to a lot of people. I think everybody's like, oh, he's a therapist, and I'm not a therapist. I have a clinical psych degree, but I'm not a therapist. I'm a life coach. I'm just well versed in mental health, because that's just the work in the realm that I work in. I think to the world, I'm probably like a person who probably doesn't have any issues, who has it all together. Just from the way people perceive me, um, I'm a person that people come to when they want help, and they want to navigate, and really for me, it's like getting them on the journey towards flourishing and thriving. So I think, yeah, that's how I want to answer that.
Thank you very much. That was extremely comprehensive. And I like how humble you are with the way that you perceive yourself, but then you're also very much aware of how everyone else around perceives you. So that is very good from a standpoint of knowing who you are. You definitely have had a great deal of self introspection, and you're somebody who has clarity of everything that's happening around you. So again, that is something that's fantastic. But this then goes very well into our second question. Dr. Pervis, right? We're going to get into this. Who is Dr. Pervis and who was he 5 years ago? Who is he at present? Walk us through the evolution of the person and the public figure that is Dr. Pervis. Go right ahead, sir. The stage is yours.
Oh wow, that's a very interesting question. Um, so I've been working in this space of coaching for over 10 years. It'll be actually, I think, 12 or 11 years this year, actually. So I was doing this before, all the social media clout and all that stuff like that. Like, I'm a real life coach. Um, 5 years ago, I would say that's when I kind of started to um, emerge as like a voice, in the space of coaching and mental health. 5 years ago is when I had worked with actress Lisa Nicole Carson. You guys should Google her. She's the first actress to be on two network TV shows at the same time. She was on ER and she was on Ally McBeal. and Lisa she'd been blackballed from Hollywood because she had bipolar depressive disorder, and at the time when she had it, being a black woman, they didn't quite understand what it was. She had an episode very, late in, kind of late in her career, and it really affected her, and it left her in a space of, trying to fight back. And BET did a special on her, on like her road back to recovery, her road back to, like, the limelight per se. And I worked with her, and I actually was instrumental in getting her in the New Edition movie that was on BET. She was one of the mothers. So in working with me, I was able to get her first acting gig in like maybe 10 years. And so that's when, 5 years ago, that's when I was first kind of like thrusted into, TV. I also had co-written, I co-authored a relationship book called Single Man, Married Man, and that was kind of around the same time. So that was when, we were on the Today Show, and there was a book written by 7 Black men, around relationships. And so that's kind of where I kind of got really into the media space. That was kind of like my first introduction into that, and that also was uh, when I signed up for grad school at Columbia, for my master's in clinical psychology. So that was just a very interesting time in my life. Like, even though, like I think I told you this, Charles, it was just such an interesting time in my life because I was on TV. I'm at Essence Women in Hollywood. I'm at Oscar parties, all those things like that. But I am like, it was just the most bizarre time of my life because career wise, it was starting to look good, but then financially, I was just in a weird space. And like, even being, applying to Columbia, I didn't even have the money to do my grad application. They asked for a application fee. I didn't have the money for it, and it was just wild. And a friend of mine, she was like, "Yo, Pervis, you need to let them know who you are." And Columbia, so I emailed Columbia and I explained to them my situation. I was like embarrassed and all this stuff like that. I didn't have money, even though I'm on TV and all this stuff like that. And long story short, Columbia waived my application fee and they gave me like a huge scholarship. And I was like one of the first people in that program to ever receive a scholarship. And most people who go to grad school, you don't receive scholarship money typically for masters. A PhD, you can get funding and things like that. But it was like kind of historic that I'd gotten a scholarship at Columbia. So 5 years ago, it was just a very interesting time in my life. It was kind of the beginning of, the journey that I've been on since. And you said, who's Dr. Pervis Taylor today? I'm still on the journey. I'm very confident in the work that I do. I'm very proud of the work that I do. I love the work that I do, but I'm still on a journey. I still feel like I'm just getting started in this industry. I still feel like there's so much more territory for me uh, to claim, and I'm excited about it.
Mm. Well, thank you. I can definitely tell that you enjoyed answering that question. You definitely poured into it. That was very, very detailed, and I appreciate this about you. You definitely make things so understandable for everyone else, and I think that is part of the reason why you're such an exceptional life coach because you're able to convey a message in a very, very relatable and comprehensive manner. So, hats off to you, brother. We move on to the next question. As a friend of yours, obviously, I already know that your path to superstardom was not conventional. For the benefit of our listeners, kindly give us a summary of your rise and some of the financial obstacles you encountered. So, obviously, you've touched on it briefly regarding the application fee that you couldn't pay when you wanted to get to Colombia. So, I wanted you to just give us maybe a little bit more of an insight to what was going through your mind during that period when you knew that you didn't have the money, but you definitely had the desire and you had the vision, you had the belief that you're going to go to Colombia and you're going to attend your education. That did at any point it ever occurred to you that this was kind of like insane? It was not feasible, realistic.
Yeah. So I'll give y'all the comprehensive, then I'll answer that last part. So I've been in New York. It'll be 20 years this June. and I'm from Lancaster, Texas. I went to undergrad. I went to University of Miami, where I got my marketing degree. From there, I moved to New York to work at Def Jam Records. And what was interesting about that is that Leor Cohen, who now runs YouTube, he was the CEO of Island Def Jam Music Group at the time, and he was an alumnus of University of Miami. And University of Miami didn't know that, and I don't know how I knew that. I think my mom told me. Anyhow, I created a connection, a pipeline between Leor and University of Miami, and and as a result of me doing that, Leor texted me. He was like, anytime you're in New York, hit me up. I got a job for you. So I took him up on it, and I stayed in touch with him, and I started working at Def Jam. While I'm working at Def Jam, I also get signed to Wilhelmina Models. So I auditioned. I always wanted to be in front of the camera, but I'll get more into that later. But anyhow, I get signed to Wilhelmina Models, and I'm working at Def Jam. So like things are kind of going really, really good for me. Then I get a phone call from my father, who, it was very weird because he never spoke to me like how he spoke to me this particular day. And he says to me, he was like, son, I was just thinking about you. He said, you're going to write books. He said, you're going to help men. He said, you're going to help people to be the best versions of themselves. He said, you're going to change the world. You're going to do so many significant things. And I'm like, I'm listening to him, and my father's always been my biggest cheerleader. Um, but I kind of couldn't take it in at the time. I think I was going to a Pharrell party that night. Like I was like focused on that. So I kind of just dismissed him. Little did I know that would have been like the last conversation I had with my father before he died of a heroin overdose. And that was also part of my narrative, like having a father who was addicted to heroin, who was present sometimes and then high the other times, right? And dealing with that craziness. So I went into a space of depression for a lot of years. And, that's when a lot of things came to surface in my life, particularly like being molested as a child, being bullied, being emasculated, all the things that I experienced at that time. It just kind of put me in a deep, deep depression. And also, too, because I didn't, I felt guilt around kind of dismissing my father the last time I spoke to him. Nonetheless, I remember laying on my apartment floor, prostrate before God and asking the Lord, asking Him to give me something to pull me out, give me something to hold on to. And one of the things that came to my mind, I felt like He answered my prayer, was that I was always the person people came to. I was always the safe space. I was always the sounding board. I was always the person that people divulge their secrets to. I was always that person. And so that kind of like put me on the trajectory that I've been on since that time. But obviously, working for yourself and choosing this career path and choosing this path is not for the faint at heart. I've had many struggles. I've experienced homelessness. I've experienced so many things. But what kept me going was the fact that I knew that I was doing the right thing, that I knew that I was doing what I was created to do. And so, to answer your question around the money aspect, um, that was shameful. That was very shameful. I'm not gonna lie. It hurt. It was a lot of things that I experienced at the time. But one of the things that I'm so grateful for is that I never questioned my dopeness. I never, ever, 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 ever questioned my dopeness in the midst of poverty, in the midst of all the things that happened. And so, like, while I had shame and while I felt a way around, not always having money in that Columbia situation, I obviously, for me to email them and be like, yo, this is who I am, blah, 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 to have that much uh confidence to do that, that to me, in thinking about it now in retrospect, thinking about it now, shows how much swag I was operating in, and I didn't even know it at the time. So while both things can be true, like I was very much aware of my dopeness, I was also very much aware of the place that I was in financially, and it's weird. But you hear a lot of people talk about that they can have the number one album in the country and they're broke. So like those things happen, and again, this is my choice. I could have had a 9 to 5. I could have done other things, but so like definitely, I don't want to paint this sad story, because it's not that. It's definitely my choice and my choosing. But I think what anchored me was that I knew God was with me in the midst of it. But also anchored me was that I never questioned who I was or what I was bringing to the table.
Wow. Firstly, my condolences for, you having lost your father, and more so in the way that you did lose your father to a heroin overdose. Thank you very much for being vulnerable with us and sharing that detail, because I know it's probably something that's not easy to speak about, but it definitely does show part of why you're so passionate about helping people through any avenue of life, because you also feel that to an extent your father could have benefited from somebody who has your credentials now, your passion and your services, like as a life coach, somebody who can really help somebody through life for them to attain their goals. Obviously, it's not saying that you're a therapist, but a life coach is somebody who is definitely able to be there to be part and parcel of what somebody's doing on their journey. And I know for a fact you've been somebody who's been remarkable at that. And just looking at your life story, it's fantastic that you've ended up being in the position that you are, because you have a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and you did not just arrive at this point without bumps, hurdles. So it's just something that is really, really admirable. And I appreciate that about you, Dr. Pervis. And again, thank you for breaking down everything that you did and the way that you did. There's several things that I'd want to piggyback off, but obviously I'd like to proceed to the next question. And I'm just glad that you're really pouring into us. The next question right now is going to be: today, you are touted as one of the best celebrity life coaches worldwide. Surely there was a time before this that you'd be considered as crazy or considered as unwise if you'd have told people about where you're going to be today. So we want to focus on the naysayers and the doubters. Tell us a little bit more about some of the naysayers and doubters you encountered. You do not have to give their names, obviously, but you can just tell us about the experiences if you're at liberty to do so. Dr. Pervis, the stage is yours.
You know what? I never really I'm being so honest. I never really focused on people who said I couldn't. Because that was my life. So many people like growing up, I had haters. So many people saying I wasn't enough, I wasn't this, I wasn't that, and really, I think at some point I kind of divorced myself from that because I realized me working at Def Jam, me being signed to Wilhelmina Models, that was all undergirded by the pain that I didn't deal with in being bullied in disproving people, right? So I was living to disprove people, so therefore I wasn't living, right? So I didn't have a life, I didn't know who I was. So once I got to a place of like understanding my identity, I've definitely had people say, laugh at me, family members. I've had people laugh at me and say, like, yo, like, how you gonna do that in your life? And da 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 da. Right. I've definitely had those experiences, but I do not think about those. I don't dwell in that space because I was so sold on the vision that God gave me. Like I just kind of tune that out. Now, interestingly enough, when you are in a certain space, you are susceptible to criticism, you are susceptible to shade, you are susceptible to hate. And like I could definitely share an experience where I got traumatized on social media. I commented on the shade room one time, and when you're verified, your comments go to the top. And I don't know what I forgot what the situation was, but I was like, yeah, this is great, whatever the situation was. And when I tell you those people tore me apart in the comments, and it wasn't just me, it was other verified people that were in agreement with me, but they were tearing them apart too. And I was just kind of like, yo, this is wild. And it was shocking, it was triggering. Like I was kind of shaking because I wasn't prepared for that because I just tend to tune that stuff out. But I've definitely had, people laugh at me, talk about me behind my back, like have try to stage interventions with me. Like I've had it all, but I kind of like I never really gave that permission to penetrate the way that they probably wanted it to. And I had to do that in order to keep this dream going. Because if I would have allowed it to penetrate, then I wouldn't be who I am today.
Wow. talk about having an iron mindset. That is something that is really phenomenal. It just speaks to who you are as a person. And I hadn't thought about it the way that you said it. Like you say that you were not necessarily paying attention to the you're not paying attention to the haters. And this ties in with one of the things you said earlier when you were alluding to the fact that you never ever for a second doubted your dopeness, right? That's the word that you used. And I think that is part of the reason why, even when people would hate, it would not be something that makes you waver or makes you stumble that much because you were not focused on them. You're focused on your mission. You're focused on who you are, and whatever their thoughts about you were, it did not diminish, deplete, or otherwise take away any of that dopeness that you were talking about earlier, any of that, for change of words, probably any of that calling, that purpose, any of that anointing that you had. So this is something that is fantastic, and thank you very much for touching on that, Dr. Pervis. I'd also end with this. Something that I really found really intriguing about what you said is that your doubters and naysayers are not a thing of the past. They're a thing of the present, probably a thing of the future. And that's something that a lot of people have to learn, that doubters and naysayers do not stop when you reach a certain level of success. There'll be new doubters, there'll be new naysayers at that stage because people always have a reason to doubt something until it has been done, until they've seen it. So at every stage in your life, when you're progressing, when you're moving forward, there are going to be people who look at you and think, you know what, this is the end of the road for you. You're not going to make it to this next step. And having a mindset like the one you just touched on, Dr. Purpose, I think that is pertinent to being able to achieve certain feats of greatness like you have yourself. So thank you very much for touching on that. And then I
You
would
have to.
move into the I'd move into the next, not next section of questions, but to the next question, and then we'll have a brief reset that will be given by yours truly, the wonderful Elena Kai. But then before we get to that, here's the next question. Client privilege agreements and NDAs are understandably going to restrict part of what you're going to say during this conversation.
Hmm.
But we would like to know what are some of the instances whereby you have been able to be happy dealing with celebrities, unhappy dealing with celebrities. You do not have to say their names. You do not have to be very exact with the instances that you give us, but then just telling us a little bit about how your experience working with celebrities has been, whether you've been starstruck at times, whether you felt like it's a tumultuous task to deal with celebrities. How have you felt about the celebrity? But while you were starting at the very grassroots of it all, obviously you were working your way up, and there were these larger than life figures, and you were just still working your way up. How did that make you feel working with them and having them kind of entrust their lives to you as a life coach? The stage is yours, King.
um, that's a good question. Actually, I was speaking to an NFL player um, on Friday, and he wants to transition from NFL into. He's actually going to school for his psychology degree, and he wants to do coaching and mental health and all this stuff like that. And he asked me this exact same question, and it's just trial and error. Like I've definitely been starstruck, right? I would say a majority of the celebrities that I work with, that I have worked with, I wasn't. This is gonna sound shady, but it's not meant to be shady. I wasn't that big of a fan. Not meaning like I'm not saying that they weren't talented. Or anything. They just weren't on my radar like that. So I really there was one I was kind of like, oh my god, I got to catch my breath.
Mm.
Um, honestly speaking, but that was at the beginning. Now it's just like these they're people. They're people just like you and I, right? They are people who are going through experiences, and it's even more complex because they're under a microscope, right? And then they're also surrounded by people who may or may not be in their best interest. And so it's like it's a lot of things that you got to work through and process. And when you really focus on the work that needs to be done, that kind of goes to the side. Because at the end of the day, this is a soul that I'm dealing with, right? So there definitely have been times initially, but then when it's time to get to work, it's time to get to work. I've had um, I can say this. I had someone from, and I never worked with this person, so I don't want y'all sending me no messages. I had one person from R. Kelly's camp reach out to me, and they wanted me to work with him before he did the Gayle King interview, and I was just like, no. And I gave them my reasons why, and we saw what happened with that interview, but and all the other things that was going on. But you have people that reach out to you. You have people that you know that send inquiries and whatnot, and I don't always work with everyone, right? I have to feel led to want to work with certain people, and I also want to make this clear. I don't strictly just work with celebs. I work with everyone. I work with every walk of life. I worked with people who are in the adult entertainment industry. I work with teachers. I work with principals. I work with CEOs. I work with everyone who really just wants to get on a life towards flourishing. So I just want to make sure I say that. But I just, it's. I think it comes along with maturity, right? At some point you just realize that this person is just a human being, and they just want to be whole, and I think that's the unifier. I always look for a common ground amongst us. Like, I may not know what it's like to be a billionaire, a multimillionaire, or on TV every 5 seconds, but I do know what it feels like to be in pain, or to be hurting, or to want to accomplish a goal, or to feel stuck. You know, so it's like really just finding a place of commonality amongst us.
Wow, I again, I'm in awe at your response. You're making me think of things more and more each time that you respond, and that is fantastic. I think it's definitely the same experience for everybody who's in attendance today, and we're just very lucky to actually have you tell us more about your life and really being, well, for a lack of better words, vulnerable with us about some of your experiences. So thank you very much for telling us about those. And you know, I think I've always said this to you, somebody who's very perceptive, probably borderline clairvoyant in the way that you almost always know what's going to come. You have a really good sense of intuition, and some of the clients you've chosen not to work with, it seemed to be the right decision for you at the time. Obviously, there would have been a ton of money on the table. That just shows that you're somebody who's not motivated by the dollar signs only. Obviously, the dollar signs do motivate everyone, but when it comes to importance, I think you place more importance upon how you can help people and whether those are the
Absolutely.
right type of people to be working with in the first place from a moral standpoint. And I love that you have principles like that. I wish more of us would have principles like that. I myself can actually, you know, try to get there at some stage as well to emulate the type of principles that you have. I can learn a lot from you, and I think the case it's the same case for everybody in the room. So thank you
May I
very
say
much
something?
for,
May I say something
go
quickly?
right ahead.
So, for everybody out here who is looking, for life coaches and whatnot, because we are inundated with life coaches, right? I want to say this, like, it has to be the bottom line. The way we measure true life coaches, the way we measure success is not based upon money. It's based on how well our clients are flourishing. And you should be able to tell that when you're seeking someone to be a life coach. Are they about money, or are they about you prospering and flourishing, right? And so that is the biggest metric for me. So if I'm only focused about money, then I need to be doing something else. I'm working with human beings who are souls. Like, that's very serious. And so I take it very seriously. And any coach that you work with, should be able to discern that about them. It's not about money, it's about how well you flourish. So I just wanted to say that.
Wow, wow. Uh, I couldn't, I couldn't have thought of it or said it better myself. You need to focus on the intentions of those people, and obviously later on we will be asking you for those type of nuggets on how to look for a life coach, how to vet a life coach, what type of a life coach to go for, and then also some advice that you'd be given to some of your peers who are in the life coach industry on how they could be better and what to also look out for. So obviously we're going to get into that, but before that, as promised, we're going to have the beautiful and the phenomenal Elena Kai give us a reset. She is exceptional at this. Just wait, her voice is fantastic. And Elena, the stage is yours, Queen.
Awesome. Greetings from Chicago. You are in the Meet the Ivy League doc who mentored every big celeb you know, featuring the one, the only Dr. Pervis Taylor. This room is curated by the Forbidden Club and founded by the wonderful and amazing Charles Mayambo. Please click that little green mention at the top of your screen and follow the club. And at the very bottom of the screen, click that up arrow and share this room so others can join in this awesome conversation. Also, if you have a question, raise your hand and come up on stage, or you can drop it in the room chat and we'll get to it at some point during the discussion. One last favor. Please stay connected to Charles Mayambo, Dr. Pervis Taylor, Nalena Kai, and the rest of the moderators on Clubhouse, Instagram, and Twitter, and click the bell next to Charles Mayambo's name, and it will set notifications to let you know what's coming for next week's Celebrity Room and future rooms. This is Nalena Kai, and I hope that everyone here is having an amazing day on purpose. Back to you, Charles.
Thank you. Wow. How can I follow that up? You're simply exceptional, Elena, and I actually got into some form of a trance while you were speaking. I was just not focusing on everything you were saying. I actually lost track of what I was thinking. It was just that good a reset. But guys, do make sure you're giving Elena Kai a follow. She is a best-selling author herself. She's doing some phenomenal stuff. In fact, she's a multiple best-selling author. The same thing with her friends, Stephanie and Shakira in the room as well. Do make sure that you are giving them a follow. And that social digital currency, that is something that my brother Scrap, who's going to show up any second now, would usually tell people to do. It's free to exchange, follows, and those keep people connected. So do make sure that you're able to give some follows to the moderators on stage that you resonate with. Obviously, look no further than Nalena Kai, and then start moving around from there, just giving follows to some of the other moderators. So thank you very much for that. Right now, we're going to be moving back to the questions. Before that, though, I want to highlight that pinned link up top. So obviously everybody in here must have the updated version of Clubhouse, I think. And you will see the pinned link there that's saying Heal Forward, 4 Steps to Purposeful Living. So that is Dr. Pervis Taylor's book. As I was saying before, this man, in fact, I hadn't said it. This man is multifaceted. If you hadn't already figured it out for yourself, you should know that by now he's not only a celebrity life coach, he's also an author, a number 1 best-selling author, and he's a keynote speaker. He does just about everything you can think of. So do make sure that you're going and getting that book if you feel so inclined, or at least during the duration of this Zoom, strongly consider getting the book. It is definitely a life changer. And from the title alone, I think it's something that is unique, and it's something that definitely encompasses who Dr. Pervis Taylor is as a person. So if you're enjoying this Zoom, do consider getting that book yourself. Get yourself a copy. And there will be some wonderful things that we do for the people who are getting the books. I will let you know a little bit later towards the end of the room. That said, Dr. Pervis Taylor, we're going to be getting back in the thick of things in terms of the questions. And the next question that we are going to have is going to be in the second phase. We spoke about having the introductory questions. We have those out of the way. Now we're getting into the career-centered questions. And the first question that we would have for you is, when did you definitively know that you had a calling for coaching people through life circumstances? The stage is yours.
So, I think Facebook had just came out. So this is like 2008, 2007, 2008. And two things happened. So somebody I went to high school with, junior high school with, she kept a letter that I wrote her in junior high, and I think it was over some boy that she was in love with, and he didn't love her back, and I coached her in the letter. Like I told her, like, this is what you should do. Know that you know what I asked her. I said, what about you is amazing. And I asked her, I was like, tell me some things about you that are amazing. And I told her that she was enough, that she was valuable, she was invaluable, and that she deserved better, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying this as a 12-year-old, and she kept it. So that was interesting to me that she kept it, and she literally took a picture of it, and she Facebook messengered me the copy of the note. And I was so shocked at the stuff I was saying at 12 years old. It was like very analogous to what I'm saying now. And so like at the time, and so I was just like, wow, okay, so that's interesting. And then Twitter, yeah, I think Twitter and Facebook kind of came out around the same time. And I had tweeted something, and my boss at Def Jam, I saw her on the street, and she said, I wanted to let you know that tweet, that comment that you put on Twitter, it really shifted me. Thank you so much for that." And now this was somebody who barely spoke to me at Def Jam. So for her to be that vulnerable and to stop me on the street and say that that really shifted her, I was that's kind of like that was the moment where I was like, okay, so this is what you're supposed to do. And so I studied under a master coach in Trinidad, and I just sat at her feet, just gleaning from her. And that was kind of like the definitive moment for me. And I released my first book called Purpose Principles at the first. That was actually my first book that I actually released, and that was just like a book on life principles, basically um, about my mistakes and things that I'd done wrong, and just the lessons that I gleaned from it. So it was the note from Nicole, and then it was Shantae stopping me on the street and letting me know that my tweet had changed her life. So like it was those two moments and that led me to release my first book, and then start studying coaching, and then get certified and all the stuff like that.
Oh, you have me stuck at 12 years of age. You knew your calling when you were 12 years of age. In fact, you showcased your calling when you were 12 years of age by actually speaking into somebody's life by saying that they deserved better. And that there is remarkable. And given how good you are at what you do, I can fully believe it. In fact, if anything, I think the first words you said when you were born were somewhere along the lines of life coach, because you're really good at it. You're really good at it. And I hope that more people are able to discover this because they could benefit immeasurably from your tutelage, your mentorship, and just the companionship that you're able to offer people. Like right now, when you're in here, what you're just offering everybody who's in here, just speaking to us in terms of on a discussion level, you're really really pouring into each and every one of us, and I feel very fortunate in many ways. I also feel like I want to have that same sort of mentality that you've been speaking about time and time again. I want to also have the same sort of assuredness that you have. You were speaking about your dopeness earlier on, and you were saying that having that self belief is something that is incumbent if you're going to move forward in 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 a strong way in life. And I couldn't agree more. Several of the things that you're just saying, they're fantastic. But that said, what we're going to do, I'm going to look at the chat box, right? And I'm just going to look if there are any questions. So I am seeing one question, and we will be alternating from the questions, the pre-selected questions that I already have, and then we'll also be going to some of the questions that are in the chat box. So do make sure that you're dropping questions in the chat box if you'd like to ask Dr. Pervis Taylor anything. So we have this question from Raul, and what Raul is saying is, what has been the best experience of your career? I like that. That's a concise question, but that's also a really, really detailed one in terms of the answer. But go ahead, Dr. Pervis.
I just one. I've had many, and I'm grateful to say that. Actually, I'll say this. So I'd written a book called Survival Mode, and that book was written for Black men's mental health, as well as Heal Forward. And I was walking down the street, Fulton Street in Brooklyn, and this man, he like he's like calling my name, and I think I hear somebody calling my name, and I'm just like, oh well, maybe I'm hearing things, right? Because Purvis is a very unique name. So I'm like, somebody keeps calling my name. So I stop and I look back, and this dude, this muscular dude, he like kind of walks up on me, and I'm like, oh, bro, what's happening? He said, "Are you Purvis Taylor?" I'm like, yeah. And he's like, and he like hugs me. He gives me this big bear hug, and I'm like, I'm startled. I don't know what's happening. And so then he looks over and he shouts to his wife. He's like, "Hey, baby, baby, this is him. This is him." Someone had bought him a copy of my book, and he was hugging me. He said, like, your book has saved my marriage. And And for me, and I'm going to therapy. So for me, that was the moment where I was like, "Oh wow, this is this is a defining moment for me." It's like I'm walking down the street now and people are like, telling me that my work has changed their lives. And there's been so many moments like that. And I mean, even beyond the celebrities, like just my male clients who are now in therapy, who are now flourishing, who've apologized to their baby mothers, who now know how to emotionally process, who now know how to communicate, who have better relationships. They know how to problem solve. They know how to resolve conflict. Like those moments like that are so uh, moments that are just so invaluable to me. But from a client perspective, one more just came to mind. Like I said, there's been so many. This one is really powerful. My very, 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 very first client ever. She wanted to be an entertainment lawyer, but she was very timid. She was very timid. She didn't believe in herself, and pretty much a lot of our coaching was around her, being solidified in her dopeness, right? Being confident in herself and standing in her power, right? So fast forward, I'd worked with her for like maybe like 3, 4 months, and then I didn't hear from her. And she texted me that she had moved to LA and that she was managing a couple artists. Then I saw on the Grammys, her name was in one of the credits for like best rap album. She was an executive producer on this. I forgot the artist that it was, but she won a Grammy. And so like it didn't happen that year we were coaching, but fast forward like 5, 6 years later, she's a Grammy award winning entertainment lawyer. And so I've had many experiences that have just been so powerful within my career. Like I just can't name just one.
Well, I do. I I sympathize with you as well. Raul's question was tough. To name just one,
Yeah,
that would really that would
yeah.
be tough. But I'm happy I'm
Oh,
happy you narrowed it down because you probably have terrific experiences with your clients, because you really invest everything into them. I wouldn't be surprised that they are where they are now in life. A lot of them achieving big things. It has a lot to do with you and your mentality. Like you said, you're not focused on the money that they're bringing your way or how much they can give to you. You're focused more on how much you can impact their life and how much you can help them get to where they're supposed to get to. So I'm not surprised that you have several terrific experiences with your clients. In fact, I liked so much what you said about that man who said that you saved his marriage, and that was something that, you know it made me really think about it, because I know several people who have been looking for somebody who can just help them, but they're not able to find that person, and they really want their marriages to work, but they feel like they just have to internalize, compartmentalize, and just keep it within while their marriages die, while their marriages go to ruin, because we have this principle of saying we're not going to let everybody else know of our problems. But for somebody who would say that you were able to impact his marriage like that, and he comes and he gives you a hug, that's phenomenal. And one of the best things about this now is you're not only impacting people's lives through your one-on-one sessions, you're doing it also through the books that you write, because in those books people are able to find out more about who you are as a person and some of your ideals, what has worked for you, what has worked for some of your clients. And that there, I think it's like a crash course to having Dr. Pervis as a life coach. So do make sure that you're clicking the link above if you feel so inclined. Thank you very much. We have my wonderful sister Silk, who has joined us on stage. Good to have her here. We definitely have a really, really strong stage. I'm actually getting a little bit starstruck with several wonderful people here in the building. And thank you very much for giving out a portion of your time and allocating it to the room today. We are going to be continuing with the questions. Just a reminder to everyone, please do make sure that you are sharing the room and trying to get more and more people in this room just so that they're able to get at least some of the wisdom that my brother here is exuding, and he's doing so for free. So let's make sure that we manage to get a few more people in here so that they can also benefit from what Dr. Pervis is saying and some of the experiences that he is indeed sharing with us. We'll be moving forward to our next question, and our next question is going to be another one to do with his career. So, there are often misconceptions between therapists, counselors, and life coaches. To your knowledge, can these three seemingly synonymous fields be comprehensively demarcated?
You have to break down that last word, bro.
Can they be differentiated?
Oh,
My apologies.
differentiated. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you said something else. Before I,
Yeah, I'd say
before I answer that
demarcated, but
question,
it's basically the same thing.
yeah. So before I answer that question, I just want to thank everybody for being in this room. I honestly didn't think nobody was going to come in here, so I'm just really grateful and really kind of blown away that you guys are listening to little old me. Honestly, so thank you all for being here. I'm really grateful. I'm really appreciative. Um, to answer your question, you know, I always look at it like this: like a therapist is a person who helps you to trace the pathology of a thing and helps you to unpack, right? As a coach, I help you build. That's the best way to put it. So therapy, in my experience, how I look at it, and obviously you could bring a therapist and they'll have their perspective, but I look more so like therapy as more past oriented, and coaching is very now and future oriented.
Mm. Could you please repeat that? That was. I've had him say this before to me over a phone call, and I
You
jumped
you
out
had
of
me
my
say
chair. I
it
was like,
5 times.
"What? You need to
You
say
had me
this
say
again."
it 5 times. You had me say it 5 times. Therapy is more past oriented and some present. Coaching is present oriented and future oriented. So I help you to build. And therapy is helping you to trace the pathology so that you can heal, so that you can even be more empowered and more emboldened in your now, so you can be whole for your future. So all of it works together.
Wow. Yeah. That is just fantastic, and thank you for giving such a concise response, one that is easy to understand. And when you say that the first time to me, and this was over the phone, like I said, I absolutely freaked out. I jumped out of my chair. I was like, wow, I've never had something so profound in regards to the differentiation of, therapists as well as life coaches. For a long time, I thought I knew, but I did not know. And when he explained it, and he explained it so simply, I remember my response to him was that, as the legendary Einstein would say, if you cannot explain it simply, then you do not fully understand it. And Dr. Pervis Taylor makes a habit of always explaining everything in the simplest way possible. And that is just so indicative of his knowledge, his vast understanding of his field and his craft. And it's just something that it's an honor to know him as a person, but more so it's an honor to know that people like him exist and that he will be able to help more and more people in the world. And this is why I'm happy that everybody has turned out here to support him. This is his room, and this is an interview about him, but I do feel like the world is going to benefit more as this man's platform continues to grow and grow. So I'm happy and thankful to everybody who has shown up. We're going to go on to the next question. Then after this question, we're going to take another one from the chat box. But this is another one of the questions that I'd crafted a little bit earlier. So here's the next question, Dr. Purvis. Why should people pay for a life coach's services? For our cost-effective listeners here today, what is the monetary justification for having a life coach?
Man, the breakthrough, the fruition, the manifestation, the clarity, the really the intangibles, but really the tangibles. Um, I think about my first client, her investing the money that she invested into coaching. She didn't really have it back then. Now she has an abundance of it. So it's like those things, like, and I know that it was a direct correlation between where she is now and the coaching, because she was so timid. She was afraid of her voice. And so just being in tune with your voice, like, you just don't get, executive producer credit on a Grammy award winning album without using your voice and your skill set and your talent and knowing your power, right? So it's those types of things that um, the things that you just experienced, I mean, you cannot put a price tag on a breakthrough. You cannot put a price tag on manifestation. You cannot put a price tag on you becoming a newer version of yourself, or being introduced to the aspects of you that you didn't know existed. The beautiful things about you that you didn't know existed. You can't put a price tag on it.
Oh, that is again said so comprehensively, and I couldn't agree more. You really can't put a price tag on a breakthrough, but more so, you cannot put a price tag on yourself. I feel getting a life coach is an investment in self. It's an investment to your dreams. It's an investment to your lifestyle. It's an investment into every aspect of your life, because you're really getting somebody who's there and who's equipped, who spent years and years practicing just to be able to help you navigate through life. And that is something that is fantastic. I don't think you can put a price on it, especially if it is a life coach who is as good and as honest, as genuine as Dr. Pervis Taylor. I think one of the things that he did highlight a little bit early on, if anybody caught it, was that you have to be very discerning with how you find your life coach. He said it in not so many words, but I like the fact that he's also honest about that as well, that the clients have to know the life coach they're looking for, and they have to look at how that person is wired. If that person is focused only on the money that you can bring to them, then that's probably a red flag straight away. But if that person is focused on your journey and how they can propel you forward and how they can help you achieve more of your dreams and propagate your success, then that person is definitely a life coach worth looking into. So I'm happy that Dr. Bevis has also been very genuine and telling us that the clients also have a responsibility and a right to be selective when it comes to these life coaches, because not every life coach is going to be the right life coach for you. But then Dr. Pervis here today, you know what, you've been the right life coach for everyone in this room today, just in terms of everything that you're telling us. And we're going to be moving on to a question from the audience as promised. And again, if you're in the audience and you'd like to ask a question, just type it in the chat box and we will come through to that question. Another thing, let's remember to continue to share the room. After the next question, we're going to have the beautiful Nalena Kai give us another room reset. But the next question that we have from an
Charles.
audience member. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Pat George A. Walker, one of the journalists on the stage, please put her in the queue to ask a question.
Surely, I'll do that. All right, I will definitely do that. Could you just say the name one more time?
Pat George A. Walker.
Pat George A. Walker. All
Hi,
right. She's
Pat.
in the audience
Yes.
or
No,
the
she's
stage?
on the stage. She's a moderator. Yes.
Okay, got you, got you. I think I wasn't I wasn't paying attention. Thank you. Okay, now I see you, Pat. I see you. There we go. Okay, so we are going to be going to the next question. Then after that, Elena gives a reset, and then we'll have Pat ask a question. So this is a question from Chris Clark Jr. Oh, in fact, before we go to Chris Clark Jr., we're actually going to go to Shakir's question because that came in a bit earlier. So Shakir's question is, what lessons have you learned from the times you've had to say no to the celebrity clients who engaged you? Wow. Wow, wow. That's a packed question. Go right ahead,
That
Dr. Clever.
I say the biggest lesson that for me at the time is that I can't be bought, right? So I'm not gonna come into your life and not do some real work. I'm not just gonna be on payroll just to yes you. You know what I mean? Like I want to do some work. So if we're not about doing the work, then we can't work together. It's just that simple for me. So it's just like anybody else. Like if you don't want to do the work, there's no point in us working together. I'm not gonna take your money. You got to do some work. We got to do some work. If you only just want to talk about the elephant and not actually do some work to get the elephant out the room, I'm not interested in that. There are people who are interested in that, who will take your money, but I'm just not one of those people. So for me, it's just like what I've learned about telling a celebrity no is that I'm more solidified. Like, yo, I really love the work that I do, and I'm committed to the integrity of the work that I do. So I would say that would be the lesson.
Wow. The- Again, there were those dimes. I definitely appreciate that. And what did stick out to me in what you just said right now. First of all, thank you, Shakir. That was a fantastic question,
No,
and
no, thanks.
that
Yeah,
was
thank you. I think it was that was the thing that kind of caught me when he was referring to the the R. Kelly anecdote that he was explaining earlier in the conversation, and I'm sure there were there were other other um, personal assistants of those particular celebrity so those celebrity clients that were trying to be clients, and I figured that had to come into the conversation as well in terms of you know not necessarily that it was just a problematic client in a manner of speaking, but just the ones that were not problematic but just needed a yes person, I guess is the word I was looking for. So that question popped up more so than anything else, in the sense of, okay, well, what other lessons could you possibly have learned? Because obviously there are going to be other clientele that will come down the pipeline, um, in the future as far as that was. So I just wanted to make sure that I at least got that question out of my head for my own reasons.
wow. And again, Shakir, that was a really, really good question, and I got really excited midway through reading it because I was now seeing where it was going. That was a really good question, and Dr. Pervis, my goodness, your response was as comprehensive as anything you've said today. Just highlighting that you cannot be bought. I think that's not something that is exclusive to life coaches alone. That is a mentality that we as people in general should always have. There is there is no value you can place on certain things such as fulfillment, your peace of mind, and just your value as a person. And I like the fact that you look at it that way. You take your work, your craft so seriously that you're not willing to prioritize the dollar signs over the actual work that you're going to be doing. Like you say, there are people who are more than willing to receive the money and not do the work because they're going to be yes men, they're going to say anything that the celebrity wants to hear. But you're not that type of a person. You're somebody who really, really embodies powerful principles, and you're somebody who is not going to change for anyone, and you're not going to shift for money. So that is something that I look at, and I think I could learn a lot again myself from that, because I can think of a few instances in my life where money has made me think, you know what, I'm going to consider this. I'm going to consider this, even if I'm not supposed to consider it.
Oh, I
And
mean, definitely, definitely those you that crosses your mind. But I I remember one time it was a coaching organization, and this is a very huge coaching organization that wanted to hire me. Like they hired coaches to go to court, see, Fortune 500 companies or whatever. And part of the interviewing process is that you have to coach the executive staff. And I remember them saying they gave me the scenario, and I was able to just pinpoint what the issue was immediately, and they got upset with me. And they were like, you solved it too quickly. And I say, what do you mean? It's like, well, we kind of want them to arrive at it, and that usually takes about, 3 months for them to arrive. I said, so that's how y'all hustling. Y'all billing these people all this money, and I just solved it within, one session. And so like for me, it's like it's about integrity for me. Like I gotta answer to God. So I can't be walking around scamming people and taking people's money if I can get them to that place quicker. So it's like some people like to string you along because it is money, right? And I respect that. But for me, I just don't operate like that.
mm, wow, I love
And
everything that you're saying right now. I love everything that you're saying right now. And like I said, I definitely have to apply a lot of that to my life as well, to learn to say no to certain opportunities, even if it will be financially detrimental, because there are certain things which are more important than finances. And I like that you're somebody who, like I said, you have very, very powerful principles and you definitely abide by those. That's fantastic. We move on to the next question. Now, the next question is extremely packed. And my next question to you, Dr. Pervis, is would you say, as a life coach, you have always been at your best? And do you think that you always have to have your A game as a life coach? Is that realistically feasible?
It's not. I mean, so I feel like I'm gonna answer that. I'm gonna answer the question. So I feel like to be like a real life coach is it's a calling, it's an anointing, right? And so because it's an anointing, there are certain things that I could just tap into, and I might not necessarily be in the best space, but it's important for me to be in a good space because I don't want that to infect my coaching. I also don't want that to spill on my client. And so are there times where I'm at my best? No, but I'm my best within that moment. I have to be because I have to be present for my client. I have to engage in active listening. If I'm not my best, I'm typically thinking about other things, right? So in that moment, I have to be my best because my it's not about me in that moment, it's about my client. So am I always my best? No, but I'm always my best in that moment I'm coaching my client. So for that hour, for that 45 minutes, I'm my best. I'm at my A game for that 45 minutes to an hour.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was answered so eloquently. And we are going to be moving on to the next question, which is going to be coming from one of the wonderful people that we have on stage, one of the journalists that we have on stage, that is Pat. And Pat, thank you for coming through today. That is Pat or George Walker. Hopefully, I am saying it correctly. I'm very, very, very uh, afraid of names because sometimes I do get them wrong, and I always want to appreciate everybody's name by the way that I do say it. So hopefully I said it correctly. I think that's Pat uh, George Walker. Okay, there we have it. Hopefully I've said it correctly. The stage is yours, Queen.
Well, you were close, but not quite there. So if I mess up your name, is it Miyambo or Mayambo?
That's not fair. You got it correct. Now I feel
Oh, okay.
terrible. You got it correct.
Well, actually, I'm Pat George Walker. And I tell people just think about it phonetically. Do I want a G or a J? George Walker. And greetings to you, Dr. Pervis. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to see you on the stage. And for Mr. Mayambo, I will be writing about you in my upcoming blog for New Industry News. So I'm very happy to listen to you. Uh, Back to you, Dr. Pervis. You and I share a lot. You work for Def Jam. I worked for Def Jam.
Awesome.
Worked for Columbia, Epic. I worked with Russell. I worked with Leor. I survived. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
I worked with Ruben Rodriguez, Eddie Pugh, West Party Johnson, Bobito, uh, Wanda Ramos, Mike Bernard, and I survived by the help and with the help of God. So having gotten that out of the way, I would just like to say that I'm very impressed and happy to hear you talk about your walk with God while you work there, because we know that it's not the how can I put it nicely? I really can't. It's not the most peaceful place to work unless you make it.
Correct. Correct.
And you know what I mean.
Listen, you can't be spilling that tea. We ain't talking about. You can't be spilling the tea at Def Jam. It's a wonderful
Well,
place.
it's a great place. A great place. You just have to know how to work your work, if you know what I
Absolutely.
mean.
Absolutely.
And make your peace where you find your peace.
Absolutely.
But my also, if I might add, that in my recording industry journey, I also manage other authors, oh my goodness, artists. And one of the highlights of my career was bringing to Joe Thomas then at Mercury Records with Dave McPherson, Joe's first hit, I'm in Love.
Oh, dope.
I did. I
That's
did.
awesome.
And well, we can go on and on about me, but my question to you is, during those moments when you had to set aside some time and just pray and say, Lord, I don't like the way this is going, but I know there is a lesson in it for me. Please show me the lesson. How did you handle that?
A lot of kicking and screaming. I'm being honest, a lot of temper tantrums and then surrender. You know, that's typically
Exactly.
that's my pattern. I'll kick and scream, cuss and fuss, and then I'll just surrender.
Well, can I share something with you? I
Go ahead.
kicked, I fussed, I screamed, and I went to God and I said, Lord, I don't like these people. I don't like what I have to do, what I have to say. But you know what? When it was time for me to leave, whatever I did not like during the time I was doing promotion and marketing is what God allowed me to use to get on the bestsellers list when I entered into publishing.
Absolutely.
So I tell people all the time, you may not like where you are, but just ask God to give you the lessons and give it to you so you don't have to repeat it over and over and over again, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I can share this, I don't know if you guys saw the Genius documentary from Kanye. I was working at Def Jam during that time, and just watching him. I was on 28. They were showing when he was in Rockefeller, but Kanye used to interrupt the marketing meetings and perform All Falls Down. And he used to get on the tables and things like that. And I just watched how no one paid him any attention and how dedicated he was to himself. Now, obviously, I ain't talking about who he is today, but at that moment, I recognized like you had to be very solidified in who you are in order to do that. And that was the biggest lesson because it's so easy in the music industry to lose your identity. Like people are like, I work at Def Jam as opposed to I'm Pervis.
Mm-hmm.
Like people leave with what they do positionally, or they leave with what brand they're associated with. And so that one little lesson I learned from Kanye was that you need to know who you are.
Well, for me, it was a little bit different because I came from the entertainment side into the corporate side. I used to be with a singing group called the Chantels, and we had hits like Maybe, The Plea, You Gone, stuff like that. And so when I came off the stage and got into the corporate side, it was a big wake up call for me. And what it did for me, Dr. Pervis, it would have made me appreciate all the work that went into making an artist successful. Because a lot of times the artists don't know. Like, for instance, you'd have an artist come in with his entourage and he wants to show off and he's saying, buy lunch for this person and buy lunch for that person, buy lunch for everybody. Not understanding that at the end of the day, that money comes out of his budget. That money he will not see because it has to be recouped. The same thing I used to tell some of the new artists, like Nikki D and uh, trying to think about what's some others. Get your own publishing company. I had two, ASCAP and EMI, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to get as much money off of your talent as possible. And I think that, like I said, when I came off the stage and into the corporate side, my eyes were wide open. There's so much money that's left on the table that an artist should get if they knew better.
Absolutely.
So I won't take up much more of your time. I just want to say I'm very proud of you. I love what I'm hearing, and I can testify to what you're saying because I've seen it and I've been there. And I give the room back to you, Dr. Mayambo. I'll get it right one day.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And we are going to be continuing with the other questions, but I just love the back and forth that Dr. Pervis and Pat had. The synergy between the two of you was absolutely remarkable, and I enjoyed that. Just a reminder, a recap to anybody who is coming to the room for the first time, or you've just bounced back into the room. This is our topic today. Meet the Ivy League doctor who mentored every big celeb that you know. And if you caught the back end of the conversation, you could hear that there are several things that, he has encountered, which he was able to identify with as well, with some of the encounters that Pat has had. So we have some really, really prominent people on the stage today. And please do make sure you're going through their bios, you're making sure that you're following them and just connecting with people, because that is another thing that is imperative when it comes to these type of rooms or interviews. It's also an opportunity for people to build bridges, because at the end of the day, we want you to reach your full potential, and there might be somebody in this room who's able to get you there. So do make sure that you're always attentive and looking out for that. More so, do make sure that you're taking a look at Dr. Purvis's book that is pinned up at the top right there. That is Heal Forward, 4 Steps to Purposeful Living. That is the #1 best-selling book. You definitely want to check it out. And like he was telling you, he has certain clients who have come to him and say, "You have changed my life. You've saved my marriage. You've done this." If you would want to get a chance to know more about a man who's able to do this for people, that book is something that is packed with all the information you'd want to know about Dr. Pervis and a lot of his methods that have been able to help people. That said, we're going to be moving forward to the next question.
Excuse
And
me, Dr. Meyer, but may I? This is Pat. I'm sorry. I would be very. Uh, I have to thank Nalena Kai, and I'm so sorry I was talking before and I didn't do it. Nalena, thank you. You are awesome. You are wonderful, and you've always been a blessing. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
well, thank you very much for giving credit to Nalena. She's a remarkable person, just as you are, Pat. I wanted to say it's just Charles Miambo. It's not Doctor, not yet. But I appreciate the fact that you thought I was one, and I'm deeply humbled by that. And right now, just to everybody who's in the room, we are going to be continuing with the questions. And thank you very much to everybody who's been part of it. We've had Pat, we've had Shakir, we've had Wu asking questions, and we've got some really big heavy hitters on the stage, such as Showtime, such as Diamond Diva. Please do make sure that you're giving them a follow as well, reading through their bio and getting to figure out what it is that they do. Diamond, actually, who's on stage, is a guru when it comes to these mindset issues, and this is why it was imperative to make sure that she was in this room, because I have seen the way that she soars into people, and she is remarkable when it comes to that. So probably at some point during the room, we'll have Diamond just say a few things, because I thought a lot of people could benefit from this woman. She is highly, highly intelligent and very, very well versed and knowledgeable when it comes to matters of the mind. She is sensational when it comes to that. And even that is an understatement. I cannot truly quantify what it is that she does when it comes to mindset talk. So I can't wait for people to hear from her at some point during the room. That said, Showtime, thank you as well for coming through. He is a very, very big person himself, a prominent figure when it comes to not only journalism, but as far as being a publicist, owning his own magazine that has worked with some of the biggest people, such as the Nicki Minaj, the Soldier Boys, anybody you can actually think of. But he's a very humble man. He's always somebody who is looking for how he can help and benefit people who are around him. He's a very, very genuine person. So it's good to have him in this space as well. There's several other big people that are on stage, the likes of Eli. Just take a look and you'll be able to see a lot of these moderators bring immense value. And do make sure that you're making your intentions known. All right. So again, this is a perfect example of why these moderators need to be followed. They just push down the troll that came up to the stage. So this does happen on Clubhouse at times to shake up the room a little bit. We have somebody who just comes up and just splits out something, and these moderators act so efficiently. You saw the efficacy of that. They just push them down to the audience. So it's really important to make sure that you're giving them a follow. They're doing a lot. That said, also thank you to Michael, who's in the room, who was pinged in by uh, ECMD that has come in Henderson. So we're going to be moving forward. And the thing that we're going to be touching on for the next question right now is something that I feel as though, Dr. Pervis, you're going to enjoy this question, but you're also going to find it tough. Keeping in mind that we are all humans, has a client ever disappointed you? And have you ever felt you failed yourself or your clients? The stage is yours, Dr. Pervis.
I'm thinking, I'm going through the mental Rolodex. There's been like over 11 years worth of clients. Have I had a client disappoint me? I can't necessarily recall. Have I had clients be inappropriate? Yes. Um, but disappoint me as far as like what they came to me for, I can't necessarily recall. What was the second part of the question?
Have you ever thought that you failed your clients?
Um, there there was one time where I thought that I failed a particular client. But then I was speaking to one of my therapist friends and one of my other coaching friends. They were like, "No, that wasn't on you. That was pretty much on them." I learned. Well, that situation taught me this one thing, that I'm no one's savior, right? And that everybody's life, people aren't monolithic. So what may work for this person may not work for that person, and that's okay. And whatever happened in that situation was meant to happen the way that it happened. And so like I learned from that one particular situation, that was the one time where I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't do this, because it was so at the time it seemed like such a grave experience. But now looking back at it, I was like, no, that's what it was meant to be. And I had to kind of take my ego out of it, right? Just the work itself has worked, right? Because I used that work for several other clients prior to that. It taught me the lesson that people are not monolithic, and that what may work for one person may not work for the next person. And so it wasn't necessarily about the work or me failing them. It was just that we just didn't have the right approach.
Again, like I'd say, that's a question that is to an extent really tough, but I'm happy that you're authentic with the way that you answer these questions. And it shows that you really care about your clients, because you have certain instances where you blame yourself for something that you're not actually responsible for, but that's just how much you put yourself on the line for these clients, and you want to make sure that you hold yourself to a higher account. And that is something that is phenomenal, because I think most of us, the first thing that happens when something does go wrong, we look for who we can blame. And in no case does it ever, be like be us. It's never going to be us. Everything is somebody else's fault. But then you being in situations where you looked at a client not reaching the stage where you wanted them to reach, and you thought, you know what, this is on me, but then later on figured out that it wasn't on you. That is just indicative of humility, as well as 100% compassion when it comes to your clients. You want to make sure that you do everything for them. So that is something that is phenomenal. And thank you very much for that. That said, we're going to be moving forward to the very next question. After that question, we're going to have a brief room reset from the wonderful Nalena Kai. And this is going to be the next question. You must have certain things that really set you off about fellow life coaches and their methods of coaching. Could you give us a bit of a scoop? I knew you were going to enjoy this question.
Oh
The
my
stage is
gosh.
yours.
No, fully answer the question. So you want me to be shady? Is that what you're saying? In short?
Not shady, obviously, but just to at least have your understanding on how you feel maybe some life coaches uh, could do things differently. It doesn't have to be shady. Here's the thing. I've never known you to be somebody who's shady. Even when you're attempting to be shady, you always come across as nice
Yeah,
and thoughtful.
yeah.
But, this is going to be an interesting question, and how you answer it. The stage is yours.
Okay. So we are inundated with coaches, that we're in the dispensation of coaching, advice, giving time, right? As a culture. There's a distinction between people who know how to brand well and people who know how to walk people through a situation. There's a distinction. And I think a lot of what we see today is people who know how to brand very well, but they don't have any receipts. Um, I think my biggest challenge is, 2 plus 2 is 4, no matter where you go in the world, right? So if the thing that you're kind of saying to a person only works for a person in a particular income bracket or this type of thing, and it doesn't work for somebody in Paraguay, um, I kind of challenge that a little bit, because I think there are certain principles and certain things that just work fundamentally for all human beings, like, acknowledgement, acceptance, obtaining goals, like ways about obtaining goals,
Somebody don't join you.
saying 5 things about yourself that make you amazing, like being solidified in your, what I mean, certain things that are just universal, right? Um, I just wish that it was more so about the clients being transformed as opposed to look at me, look at me. If I guess that's the answer. Look at me, or let me be controversial so I can get likes, so I can be in people's mouths. So, to be a life coach, what we're looking at is a lot of narcissism, truly. And not really about the clients being shifted. And so, this mean approach, obviously, there's some, like, for instance, right, there's some trainers, fitness trainers, right, that yelling, that works for some people, right? But don't yell at me. Like, that's not gonna work. Like, I don't like people yelling at me, right? So I think it's more so about, like, um under just being discerning, man, and how you disseminate information, and I think for many of us, like, coaching is not a regulated industry, so anyone can say that they're a coach, right? And so that's the danger, right? Is that anybody can say that they're a coach, but it really boils down to how well are his or her clients flourishing or thriving. So for me, I guess it's more so about, the shift in focus, as opposed to me oriented, as opposed to me oriented going more towards client oriented, if that makes sense.
Mm, wow, look at that. Like I said, it's remarkable the way that you answer these questions. It's it's just something that's a sight to behold. I think I would have been really in some serious trouble if I was trying to answer that question. Perhaps would have had to go to a commercial break if we had a commercial break, because I'd just stutter. Perhaps, because I wouldn't have the words to say, and to say it as eloquently, while being also very, very respectful of other people in your profession. This is something that I really do appreciate about you. So you are highlighting what you do believe could be an issue, but the way that you're conveying it is with the utmost respect. And that is something that, again, is indicative of who you are as a person. Before you are Dr. Pervis, the number one best-selling coach, or before you are Dr. Pervis, the great and loved celebrity life coach. Before you're all of that, right? Before you're the world renowned author, you are somebody who, as a person, really cares about those who are around you, whether you know them or you don't know them. You're always about respect. And that response right there, it was just very, very indicative of that. But at the same time, also, I'm happy that you boldly touched on how perhaps some life coaches could be a bit narcissistic. I think a lot of us as people can be narcissistic. And I have had certain encounters with some life coaches who were kind of like narcissists. I think one of my worst encounters with a human being on planet Earth at all was actually in one of these clubhouse rooms. I shall not name the person, but the person really tore me down. And I remember I
Wow.
shared a really personal experience. For those who may not know, and I'll just say this, it's a short thing that I don't usually like sharing it, but for the sake of other people who may be going through a similar situation, I always find myself saying a little bit about it, at least on Clubhouse. So when I was 12 years of age, I lost my mother. When I was 13 years of age, I lost my father. Before I was 14 years of age, I'd lost all four grandparents. So not a parent on either side, basically lost each and every parent. And for years after that, I was actually very suicidal, but I'm happy that God helped me navigate through all of that. And I ended up becoming somebody who was quite successful in my craft as an actuarial scientist and venturing into different things. But then when I shared that experience that day, and I was starting to feel a little bit more empowered, and I was in the middle of just giving some encouragement to some people who would have encountered that same story. That person cut me off. So it was actually that person's room. That person cut me off and they were like, you're not even somebody who should be speaking. You're not even somebody. So I don't know what it was that was going on with that person, but that person is a life coach. And that person tore my head off and said some of the meanest things I've ever had in my life. And they were more to that side of what you were saying, to be narcissistic. And it was really hard for me to take in, especially after being vulnerable. And this was one of the first times I'd been vulnerable with people. I've gone years, more than a decade, never sharing the stories that I've gone through in my life. And then I just felt like I should in that room because somebody else had shared something and I thought it could help them out. And I got that response. My goodness, was I alarmed. I was like, wow. But I'm just happy that you've pointed out there's certain people who perhaps could be narcissistic and they're in those positions where they have to be trusted by people. So it's always sad when you're in a position where people usually associate such a position with being endearing, but then you don't end up being endearing. You end up actually being somebody who's, showcasing a high degree of tyranny. But I'm happy that you highlighted that. And I was just trying to piggyback off that and just give an example of my own in accordance with what you were saying. I fully agree that there are certain people, not just life coaches, but people who are in positions where people are supposed to trust
Yeah.
them and they're
Yeah.
narcissistic. They have a God
I
complex. And
apologize.
I've
I
experienced
apologize.
it.
I'm so sorry you experienced that. And I've heard so many stories about people on Clubhouse who've had these horrible experiences with life coaches and just on social media across the board. I've had so many people come to me after they work with this person or that person, and they're like so damaged. And I'm like, man, you need to go. You got to go to therapy over this. Because it's so bad because they entrusted and they were vulnerable, and vulnerability it's a powerful thing. There's risk and then there's reward. The risk being someone can hurt you, or the reward you can be healed and get to the place you need to get to. But for many people, the risk, it's been a risk and people have been hurt. And so I just apologize to all of you who've been hurt by people who take on the moniker of life coach in that regard. So I shoulder that responsibility.
Wow. Thank you again, Dr. Pervis. Look at you as a person. You're saying you shoulder that responsibility. Some of us have never said those words, at least in succession, to say I shoulder this responsibility, and let alone for something that you're not responsible for at all. But then you're somebody who wants to apologize to each and everyone who probably never got an apology from somebody who was a life coach, and you're doing that for everyone in the room, and that's just something that is fantastic. Again, it speaks volumes of who you are as a person. That said, we are going to be having a room reset. We're going to have the beautiful Nalena Kai just tell you a little bit about this room if you're joining us for the first time or you've just popped back into the room. Nalena Kai, the stage is, oh, she's actually out for a little bit. All right. So I'm going to have to get the reset. I just checked that out really quick. Okay, so what?
Charles, sorry, this is Rahul. I was just wondering, do you mind if I respond real quick to Dr. Pervis, or I can do it after you reset, whichever works.
All right, sure thing. I will pass it over to you right after the reset. So, welcome to everybody who
Hey,
has just
Charles.
joined us.
Charles, this is Scrap.
Yeah,
I'll
yes,
do the
Scrap.
reset. You don't have to do this in your own room. I'll reset it for you real quick.
Go right ahead. The stage is yours, Scrap.
Listen, everybody. Welcome to the Forbidden Club, presenting you with Meet the Ivy Doc with mentor every big celebrity you know. That is Dr. Pervis. He's in the room now. His book is in the link that's being posted at the top. Before we move any further, if you want to get more information, make sure you spend some actual currency and you cop his book. He doesn't get paid to be on this stage, but it's a great way to pay homage and to say thanks for being here and spending your time with us. And you win because you get the knowledge that's in his book. Now, we always tell people to ping people in, but I'm going to tell you to spend some social digital currency right now by inviting your friends, sharing the room, by sharing some of the clips, because just in the few moments that I've been in here already, I've heard some great information from Dr. Pervis and perspective and his humility in saying, I shoulder the responsibility of those that have come before me on this platform and have not done complete justice by anyone who's used their services or whatnot. And that takes a lot of humility to do that and to be on this platform. And, you know, you guys have been in some of these rooms where people don't take responsibility like that at all. So it just says a lot about his character. I think we should all take a moment out and check out his book, Heal Forward, 4 Steps to Purposeful Living. What's really dope about that is just 4 steps. You don't have to do a whole course on healing forward. You don't have to do a whole soliloquy on how to become better. And you're actually getting a preview of that information in the conversation that he's giving you today. So make sure you share this room. Make sure you invite some people up. Make sure you are paying attention. We always ask people to take notes because all this information you can't possibly hope to remember because it's so much. But if you don't remember it, I'm going to always refer back to this, and I hope you do too. I hope you consider it big time, that 4 steps. It's in a book. You don't have to remember all this stuff verbatim. You could just cop the book and take your time and go through it and apply the steps one by one and then read it again to make sure that you got it how you want it. And then the last time you read it, you've taken notes, you know exactly how it's going to integrate into your life, and then you can move forward with your healing. But you have to get the book in order to do that. I think that's a great investment of your time and energy spent in this room today. But also follow the Forbidden Club. The Forbidden Club, you know, I have a lot of respect for Charles and his club because he always puts on great conversations on Sundays. It's a day for us to reset. It's a day for us to relax, but we're gaining so much information. He brings great guests to the table. So I'm going to tell you, because of that, follow the club so you can be a part of it, because we know membership has its privileges, but also follow Charles and Dr. Pervis and Judy and all these people who have decided to gather here today and mentor and be a part of this conversation, all the moderators that are here. I tell you all to spend some social digital currency for a social media engagement with any person on this platform, on any social media event that you go to. So today, you're in this event. Costs you nothing, but means a lot to those people that you spend it with. Did you hear what I said? It costs you nothing to spend some social digital currency by following Charles, by turning on notifications, by joining his club, by sharing his room, by clipping some comments and putting it on your social media. Actually, you gain a lot from it just as much as he does from your followers and shares, but extend that social digital currency spend to your social networks like Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat, whatever you use, whatever these moderators use. Spend some social digital currency following them, then liking some pictures, then commenting on some. All this stuff costs you nothing. I want to make sure that y'all understand that. The only thing that costs you a little bit, but you gain a lot from today, is going to be the book Heal Forward. It's a small price to pay for you to gain the healing that you're asking for, the healing that you came in this room to receive. Make sure you spend some social digital currency, but also convert that social digital currency to actual currency in your spending today. And if you do that, I'm sure your social currency will increase all around. That's the quick and skinny of it. I don't want to stop the conversation too much, but you got your call to action. There are a few of them. You got them. You know what they are. Start doing them while you hear the conversation going. I know somebody had a question right before we did this reset, but Charles, I'm going to spin it back to you and let you navigate this room for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Scrap, for a phenomenal reset. I definitely appreciated that. And, you know, he said a lot of very pertinent things. He is also an author of a book that is called Billionaire and Social Digital Currency. And he has caused a whole movement on this app and on other apps in general in terms of how people are able to help each other with the fact that they just share some social media currency, which is by going to each other's pages and just supporting each other, that can later transform into, or at least later materialize in the form of monetary gain. You know, the intrinsic value of just networking and helping each other in terms of supporting each other on social platforms can translate to money if you ask any expert. And then that's exactly what Scrap always speaks about. That's the ethos behind what he says when he echoes the sentiment social digital currency. another thing about Scrap, he has worked with the who's who of the music industry, from Whitney Houston to Usher. He is a legend. He's an icon, but he's extremely humble. Good to have you here, Scrap. He's an ever present in these rooms, and it's always good to have him in here. That said, we're going to be moving forward to the next question. And a reminder, if you're in here and you're enjoying the conversation, do continue to hit that share button and type in the questions that you want to ask. At some point, I know that Raul wanted to respond to Pervis. Raul, I'll be passing over to you shortly. I just want to remind everyone, if you have a question that you want to ask, go ahead and type it in the chat box. So Raul, I know you wanted to respond to Dr. Pervis Taylor. Raul, the stage is yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, Charles, thanks so much, and Scrap, thanks so much for that wonderful reset. Yeah, Dr. Pervis Taylor, yeah, I just want to say thanks so much for all your answers you've given up to this point, and I really loved when you shared your best experiences during your career, and all the answers were like if you were very humble. So it's really, I'm really thankful to be here on the stage with you and learning a lot from you. So yeah, really appreciate it, and thanks so much again for everything.
Thank you so much. That was very kind of you. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. So I am seeing that we have a lot of questions in the chat box. Let me see if I'm going to go for one of these questions in the chat box. Let's look at it. Let's look at. Yes, I still remember we were supposed to get a question a little bit earlier on from, is it Chris Clark? Let me just go check it if it's still there. All right. So this is from Chris Clark Jr. and it says, "What was the moment? What was the one moment that you were like, yeah, I'm good at this." This is a good one. This is a good one. It's similar to a question we asked before, but I like the spin on this one. Dr. Pervis, go right ahead. And this is going to be hard for you to do it without seeming nonchalant. But go ahead. The stage is yours.
Yeah. Again, there are a lot of times. And I say that humbly, but there are a lot of times. What immediately popped up in my head is I was hired by an organization in DC to do some professional development. And what was unique about this organization is that they had people from the community that actually worked there. So like they had like, figureheads, from whatever, but they had most of the employees were from the neighborhood. And so this was in Southeast DC. And Southeast DC at the time was just like, yo, you don't, that was it was a challenge, right? And so I was doing a professional development for the men, and I don't know what I shared. I usually share my story of, being molested and all this stuff like that, things that I experienced. And as I'm doing this session, this young man, he just starts, well, he's not young, he was like 30 at the time. But that's young. But he starts shaking and he starts like kind of doubling over. And I was like, and I asked him, I said, do I have permission to put my hand on your shoulder? And he was like, yeah. And so he said to me, so I asked him, I said, what's going on? He said, I don't I don't know why your story just touched me. I'm crying about my mother who died when I was 5 years old, and I never cried about it ever. This is the first time I'm crying about it. So he's crying. Then across the table, this other dude starts crying, and I'm like, what's happening? He's like, I just found my grandmother in a crack induced coma this morning, and I was too embarrassed to talk about it, but I feel like I could share this. And then the other dudes just start sharing. So like the whole room, all the male staff were literally crying, and for many of them for the first time in a long time. And I was like, it wasn't arrogant. I was just like, wow, I don't even know what I did, but whatever I did, it was God. It unlocked some pain within them. The one guy had never cried in all of his 30 years, I mean, 25 years of his mother passing. And he literally cried in that moment. And normally he was just like, I'm the dude that, I would get the strap. If, I have pain, I'm gonna go, F somebody up, I'm gonna go do this. And the way that his pain came out in tears, I was just like, wow, I was taken aback by that. And the organization was like they had never seen anything like that before. They had hired other people to come in throughout the years, but they had never seen an experience like that. So that was kind of a defining moment for me where I was like, yeah, I'm pretty good at this.
I was trying to get back to my mic. Oh, my apologies. Dr. Pervis, wow, that is quite the story. And again, you've superseded my expectations. I thought this was going to be something that, in a way, was going to be tough for you to say without seeming prideful and nonchalant, and you've been able to actually say it without seeming prideful at all. And again, I think it's just because down to the core, you're somebody who is humble. So whatever we ask you, even if it's something that could make you look prideful in terms of how it's structured as a question, you still show that humility that is deep embedded within you in the way that you respond to it. And that is something that is truly fantastic. And I'm happy again that you're somebody who knows all your experiences, because you're saying a lot of these things from memory. It just shows that you've had time to study your experiences and you treasure each and every one of them. And I feel that is something that is very, very important in any journey on life. In life, in rather, it's always important to be somebody who looks back on what you've done, who has self introspection, and learn how you can be able to use that in the future or improve on that in the future. And you're a classic example of that, because everything that we've been asking you about your experiences, you seem to remember some of them quite fondly, even the others that you don't remember quite fondly. You've used them to elevate you to where you are today. And that is something that is just exceptional. And thank you again to Clark for that question. I think that was a really well phrased question, and it
I have one
merited
more.
a great
Can I share
answer.
this?
Like, oh, go right
May I
ahead.
share the one more? I'm so sorry. So this came into my head, y'all. So I was working with this guy. He works for the government, um, the brigade general in New York City, and we were just talking, and he hired me for a quick session, and literally 15 minutes in, he looks at me and his mouth dropped, and I was like, "What?" And he was like, "You literally tapped into where I was, my issue within 15 minutes." He said, the job had hired Tony Robbins and someone else, another big life coach. And he said, I had a session with them and they just couldn't. He said, I was like going along with it, but they really didn't tap into the space. And he said, you immediately tapped into the space. And then I was thinking, I was like, dang, I could have got like $10,000 for this session. But I was grateful that I was able to tap into that space, and he was able to like get on the journey towards transformation quickly. So that was another one.
Wow, look at that. You have a lot of experiences. You are not lying when you say you have a lot of great experiences with your clients, and they're just a shining light of all the good work that you're doing. It's wonderful. We're going to be moving forward to the next question. A reminder: if you want to ask a question, to drop it in the chat box. Once we see that question, we will go ahead and ask it. We will say your name. If you do not want us to say your name, well, if you're putting in the chat box one way or the other, we'll see your name. But if you do not want us to see your name and you really want to ask a question, you could go ahead and back chat me. But would just prefer you use the chat box, because with the back chat, sometimes you don't get the questions in time. That said, we're going to be moving forward to the next one. And my next question to you, Dr. Pervis, is what made you fall in love with life coaching as a profession? And has it been rewarding enough as you envisaged when you first practiced about a decade ago? Go right ahead. The stage is yours.
I think, I do this work because I wish I had access to this type of work when I was coming up. I always do the work that I do for like the 15-year-old Pervis who struggle with depression, suicide ideation, who had low self-esteem. It's kind of selfish, but being honest, I do this so that no one, um, at least that comes into my presence, has to go through what I experience. So that's why I initially started to do it, or maybe fall in love with it, is just seeing people transform and seeing the light go on in someone's eyes. You can literally see when someone gets it, and that feeling, you can't put a price tag on it, and it just feels so amazing that you are being used to help someone get to where they need to get to. So, just the moments of seeing the lights go on, that's beautiful. Seeing the byproducts uh, of them doing the work, that keeps you falling in love. Um, I forgot the other part of the question. Did I answer it, or is there another part?
You did answer it. I think the other part is something that you alluded to, but the end of it is actually just saying that has this been as rewarding as you envisaged when you first started practicing life coaching
Yes,
10 years ago?
yes, it has been as rewarding. Um, yes, it actually has. Again, like just seeing people, like, just I think I shared this to you. I did a workshop at Warren Campbell, Erica Campbell's husband from Mary Warren Campbell. He's a multi-platinum producer, worked with Kanye, worked with everybody, Brandy, all those people. And he's a pastor. And I did a session at their church, and just seeing all these men, so celebrities, people that you guys see on TV, like on the floor, like some of them on the floor crying, like just having these massive breakthroughs. Like that stuff, man. It's just, oh, I can't even put into words. It's just beautiful. Um, I never thought, I always knew that I was dope, and I always knew that I was gonna be whatever. I just didn't know that I would have those experiences along the way. And I still haven't even fulfilled my big picture vision 10 years ago, right? I'm definitely getting closer to it, but I didn't anticipate the experiences would touch me the way that they touch me, if that answers the question.
Well, that does answer the question. That answers it satisfactorily. And we're going to be moving over to the next question. And this is something that I think you're also going to enjoy answering. And you have been answering everything so eloquently. So I can't wait to see what you say about this as well. So, Dr. Purvis, moving on to the next question. Having a decade's worth of experience, surely you must know certain limitations that life coaches have. Let's delve into limitations and boundaries for a life coach, respectively. The stage is yours.
It's funny. I literally just had to have this conversation with a new client. I literally had to tell this person. I said, "Hey, listen, you know, text me when we are having a session, and that is all we should be texting about, because I don't want to be too familiar with my clients. And because you tap into such an intimate space within your clients, you know, people get drawn to you and they want to cling to you. And so one of the things is I had to be very strict with my boundaries. I don't follow my clients on social media. They some follow me, but I don't follow them. um I they want to be friendly, and I try to be friendly, up to a certain point, but I don't want to feel like I don't want you to lose the differentiation, differentiate between Purvis and then the coach. Because those lines can get blurred very easily. And then now I'm the person who has to speak life into you. Now I'm the person who's going to ask you these powerful questions, these probing questions now, but you can't distinguish between the person who you just hung out with. So I never wanted to do that. And that's been something that has been a challenge to navigate, because people want you to be their best friend, or they want you to be a part of their family. They want you to be a part of their lives. And, unfortunately, I'm there for a season. Now, if it's years on down the line, if we haven't had a session together and you want to be friends, I'm not going to be the coach. I'm going to be just Purvis. But yeah, that's been the challenge.
Wow. Wow. Thank you very much for that answer yet again. And just a reminder to anybody who is joining us, Dr. Pervis has his fantastic book that is pinned up top right there. That is Heal Forward: 4 Steps to Purposeful Living. And we have several fantastic people on stage here. We have Judy, we have Claudine, Gino Jolly, Clear Money, Ty Banks, Khadijah Mohammed, Raul Ursula, K Fresh, Dr. Fami Karan, Talks DJ, Shakir, Tanya, Autumn Eunice, Purple Rain, Amy, Ellie, or Eli, however you want to call him, Lotus Balls, Silk, Sarah, Teddy, Sharon, Kevin, Lily, Scrap, Laura Bellotta, the fantastic, and then we also have Shippo Mukwembe, who's from Zambia. He's also he's a recording artist, and it's good to have all the people that are here today. Also, want to thank the people that are in the audience as well for coming through. I would like to thank the rest of the people on stage. Hello, Blackman, Chris, Christine, Linda, Jamather, Milwaukee, Compassion, Mr. Goldie, Byron. Oh, Byron. Byron Walker is on stage. Byron, I had not seen that yet. L.A. Walker, Yvonne,
Byron.
Marco, J. Swift, for Evelyn. We also have Annabelle, and we have Dr. D, and we also have Dr. Leah. My goodness, this is just a room full of doctors. We should call it a doctor room. And it's just fantastic to have each and every one of you here. I'm also appreciative of one of my sisters in the building. That is Caitlin right there. Caitlin, thank you for being here. Caitlin Westbrook. Always appreciate whenever she is in any room. So right now we're going to be moving forward with the questions. A reminder, if you'd like to ask your questions, you can do so by putting it into the chat box. We will be frequently looking at the chat box, and I am seeing that there are several people that have put some questions there in the chat box, and we will get to them at some point. Right now, we're going to have the journalists that we have on stage just ask some questions, and one of the journalists we're going to give the opportunity to ask a question is somebody who had not yet spoken. I hope you're ready with a question, and this is not putting you on the spot. But Stephanie, are you still here? Let me just check really quickly. Okay, I think Stephanie is away from her phone right now. Okay, so we are going to be moving forward and having Tonya ask a question. Tonya or Shakir, one of the two of you, if you'd like to ask a question directly to Dr. Pervis, given your in-depth understanding of how to phrase questions, I think you'll be able to really give a good question to Dr. Pervis, and he will be more than inclined to answer it the best way he can. So right there, the stage is yours, Shakir or Tonya.
I'll leave it to Tanya first. I'm sure she may have questions that may be separate from mine. I'll defer the floor to her.
Hi, everybody. I'm actually live streaming everything right now. I have it out on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And so I'm live streaming. I'm actually making content of the whole session, and I really enjoy this conversation. And you know what I really love about this is how down to earth you are. Tell us something like you knew what you wanted to do, but besides being a life coach, you're an author. I don't hear much about that. Can we chat a little bit about that? Tell us like when did you realize I'm an accomplished author?
Yeah. Well, thank you for your compliments. Firstly, um, I'm very proud of my books, particularly the last Survival Mode and Heal Forward, because there are books written for Black men. Black men's mental health, and I just think the climate we're in around Black men having some of the highest suicide rates in the country, and really there's a lot of talk, but there's not a lot of solution, and not enough safe spaces for Black men to process, right? And so in writing those books, and you're just trying to do your part, but in knowing that so many men have now are now in therapy because of a book that I wrote. This country boy from Lancaster, Texas, wrote a book, and it's literally touched lives, people around the globe, and it's crazy. that people like, man, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about ending my life, and I read this book, and now I'm in therapy. Or now I feel like I have some, greater direction in my life because of the book that you wrote. And it's like, I can't even wrap my head around it because I don't really look at myself as a writer per se. I just look at it as an extension of the work that I do as a coach. And I just look at all of it as all encompassing. So even the speaker, or even, that stuff, right? I just look at it as just an extension of me being a coach. And that's just something that's just a part of my voice. Um, but I'm baffled still to this day that something I wrote has impacted someone's life. But that's the reason why I wrote the book, though, right? Because I wanted the intention to help. But the fact that it actually is doing what I intended it to do, it's very humbling, and it never gets old, and it's just yeah. I never saw myself as an author or any of those things. But my father said that I was going to write books though when I was 24, and so to now be living that life is incredible. To have school districts like, yo, we want to buy like hundreds of copies of your books for our students. Like, that's crazy. To have a university like, yo, we're gonna order your books. I just had, two universities reach out to me that want copies of Heal Forward for their Black men's program or for their students. So it's wild. It's wild.
You don't have an app yet? I mean, it would go hand in hand with your book. I mean, that would be incredible, actually.
I'm not tech savvy at all. I actually had an app at one point for one of my books, but I just haven't thought about it. But yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to it. But yeah,
And I'd love to see it in an NFT, by the way, non-fungible token. Oh my gosh, that would be incredible. We have to talk offline. I'm all excited about it. But
yeah,
yeah,
you
it was
talking stuff I
incredible.
don't get.
Well, the stuff I
You
eat and
talking?
sleep the stuff, so like I'm all excited. I'm like listening to you, and I'm looking at all your books, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm thrilled that Charles is allowing me to live stream this so that I can write a blog about it and publish some articles. So I appreciate you for being here, and your story is incredible. And I love the way how eloquent you speak. But everything I think of, you're like literally saying. So I appreciate you for being so real with us. You're telling us about even you're so real in the sense that you tell us the sadness about in your life, but yet you tell us about the triumph at the same time. And that's what living is about, right? It's about the journey you take. And I love hearing
Absolutely.
stories like that from you. So I appreciate you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it.
And Doc, while we're at it, I wanted to back up. I wanted to piggyback on what Tanya was saying. The take us through the process of where you were making the I guess the segue between your platform as a coach and how you translated it through the books that you were writing as far as that was. How exactly did you go through that process? I can, for me speaking personally, although I write in the fiction space, there's definitely a process that I go through whenever I'm researching a topic that I want to write about, as far as creating a story arc from that particular theme or that particular subject or whatever the case may be, as far as that is. So just kind of take us through what that process looks like for you, or what it looked like for you as you were going through whichever book that you want to discuss about.
That's a great question. So for survival mode, which is like surviving and thriving, taking people from surviving to thriving. That's how I got the title survival mode. Um, I don't know if you guys know about prophets. I know everybody in here doesn't believe all the same thing, but someone prophesied to me that I was gonna write a book, particularly for men. And I was like, at the time, I was like, hey, I don't want to write a book. And then one day it was just like something took over me, and I just started writing down all these ideas, these thoughts. And I had the format for the book like within like an hour. And what I would do is I would only write when I felt that I had something to say. You know how sometimes you write just to kind of like get to where you're trying to get to, especially if you're writing like term papers, graduate papers. That's how I typically did that. But for this particular book, I only wrote when I had something particular to say regarding that topic, because I was so intentional about making this book not only short but concise, but also impactful. So I needed to figure out a way to do that and be also transparent and vulnerable about my narrative and make it concise and make it very simple, because I recognize that whoever reads this book, not everybody's going to go to therapy, right? And so this may be the closest thing that they get to that. That is kind of like the steps that you kind of go through that are clinically proven to go through. But I made it so simple and put it in layman's terms, and I mansplained it. I mansplained it for for brothers like out there who just didn't have the language, right? I try to make it as simplistic as possible. So that was the challenge, of just making it so relatable to anyone. Like, so the CEO could read it, the brother down the block could read it, and could relate to it. But I only wrote when I really had something to say, and that proved to be very well. That proved to be very successful with how the book turned out, because the book is short. It's everything that I wanted it to be, and so I didn't force anything. I let everything happen organically.
Okay, definitely. I appreciate that. Because, like I said, I know whenever the process works through, sometimes it can work through organically. Sometimes it can just kind of, uh, in a manner of speaking, as you said, it just flows, depending on what you're trying to actually come across and get across the pages, in a manner of speaking. So I'm definitely appreciative of how that process worked out for you. It gives me a little bit more insight from my own blogging articles.
Oh, you are most welcome, brother. Thank you for the question.
Wow, these have been awesome, awesome questions. Wow, and I knew it for a fact. When professionals are asking these questions, they take it to a whole new level. See, I try a little bit when it comes to questions, but these people just blow it out of the water because they're so experienced when it comes to this. They're so talented when it comes to this. And I'm also happy at the way that Dr. Pervis is getting the opportunity to really think before he responds, because there's certain questions where you can say them off the top of your mind. You have a very sharp memory, but there's some of these questions which are really forcing you to think and think. And I'm just enjoying seeing you also relish the opportunity to answer these questions, these mind-boggling questions. That said, we're going to be continuing with this. A reminder, guys, you're in the Forbidden Club, and this is Meet the Ivy League doctor who mentored every big celebrity that you know. That's the room right now. This is a room whereby we have several wonderful moderators here on stage. As you can see, do make sure that you're giving them a follow. Each of them have something sensational that they're doing. Believe me when I say this, I know all of them who are on stage personally, or I have somebody who's on stage who knows them personally. And it's just been a wonderful room, and we're going to be continuing with this. Believe me, the questions are only going to get better and better. And would also like to employ everybody who's in the room to go ahead and use that chat box function to be able to write some questions, which we will be answering through Dr. Purvis, right? We'll be having him answer those questions that you put there in the chat box. Another thing, please do make sure that you're sharing the room. It's really imperative that you do share the room. Make sure that you're also giving yourself the best opportunity to connect with people in this room who may be in a similar field to you, or who may be somebody who is in a field that you're aspiring to be in. So do make sure you're reading bios, because these rooms are also good for forming connections. So beyond just being an interview, we want to make sure that everybody's able to get something positive out of this room and out of this interview that we're having, to the point whereby you're not supposed to live this place the same way that you came into it. So that said, we're going to move on to the next question. And the next question is, wow, this is actually going to be, we're left with two questions for the career side of things. So here's the next question. How difficult is it to get clients for the average life coach or people in a similar profession? What would be some advice that you would want to share with other life coaches on how to get clients? Dr. Pervis, the stage is yours.
Yeah.
Quella nini?
I,
No. What are you in the mood for?
I'm surprised. I'm trying to see where that's coming from.
oh, okay.
It was one of the mods. He didn't see. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay, go right ahead. The stage is yours.
So, most of your clients come, well, I would say about 95% of my clients come through referrals, right? So that's why it's so important to be good at what you do, right? Very rarely have I gotten someone based off of just branding. Now, if someone see me on TV, if they read a book, that type of thing, I've gotten clients that way. But for the most part, it's through referrals. Um, it is challenging to get clients because people don't know, they don't understand what coaching is, and people don't necessarily know how to explain it. Um, a lot of times there's overlap between wanting a therapist as opposed thinking that a coach can provide therapy and making that mistake and just not being educated around that. I would say, you know, my first clients that I had where I did sessions for free because I knew that instinctively that I had to get testimonials in order to put on my website at the time to show my prowess as a coach, right? And I was willing to take that risk, right? I know people don't like to do things for free, and I absolutely don't like to do things for free, and I respect that. But starting out with something like that, you kind of have to. I mean, there are people who may disagree with me, but I think in order to get clients, you got to have testimonials, you got to have referrals, and I think that that makes the difference. And so, if you can work with someone for like maybe 3, 4 sessions and help them to get somewhere, help them to achieve a goal, help them to achieve a breakthrough or something, or have some type of transformation, no matter how big or small, and getting um, that testimonial from them, that makes the world of difference. But there are a lot of people who can brand well, and they can take pictures on jets and have the Louis bags in the pictures, and sometimes that attracts people as well. But I think to get real clients, is it really takes for you to be good at what you do. So that's the baseline. You got to be good at what you do, and if you're good, people will refer you. Um, yeah, it just boils down to that.
Wow. Again, I'm in awe. That is a very, very good response. And I think what stuck out the most was the fact that you said people should be getting clients by referral. And that is something that will show whether you're really helping out people, because people are not going to refer somebody they don't for help them out. So this is not going to be just through, ad campaigns or mass promotion. This is actually being marketed according to your true value. If you're really putting out value there, then people will be inclined and encouraged to actually tell other people they know that, well, there's a life coach and he is doing a phenomenal job. He did a phenomenal job with me, and he would probably be able to do the same thing for you. And that there's a referral just like that. And you say 95% referral rate. That is wow. That is something that is phenomenal. If 95% of your clients are from referral, that just means that you're doing an astonishing job. I think that is a remarkable percentage right there, because most people perhaps would struggle with that. Most people would probably have to mass promote, and whether through ad campaigns, be it Facebook or YouTube. Uh, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just very, very refreshing to know that there are people like you where you're in the position you are because people truly took to your value. People truly appreciated what you brought to the table. And with all the lessons that you offered them, or with everything that you say that they assimilated, their lives became so much better. And for that very reason, they started to push out your name and get other people to receive as much as you gave to them as well. So that is something that is fantastic, Dr. Pervis. I definitely respect you even more for that. That said, we're going to be moving forward to the final question in the career section. Then we're going to move on to him as an author, and this is something that I'm really, really excited for. So we're going to be moving on to the next question, the next and final question for the career side, for the life coach career side, if I could say. And here's the next question, Dr. Pervis. Has your industry been affected by the pandemic and current state of affairs in the world? If so, could you provide us with some insight? The stage is yours.
Yeah, it definitely has been impacted. I was so busy during the height of the pandemic. I think people were just looking. So, the interesting thing about the pandemic is that it caused people to confront themselves, because we busy ourselves so we don't have to deal with ourselves, right? And when you can no longer be busy, all you're left with is you and those thoughts that you've suppressed and all those things that you haven't addressed or dealt with, right? And those dreams that you put on hold, those goals that you put on hold, right? You're responsible now. You're literally sitting with it. And so I think for along with therapists, like therapists are still booked out. There are a lot of coaches who are still booked out because so many people. The pandemic caused people to really want to do better or want better for themselves or seek healing or seek to flourish. Many people were upset and unhappy. Um, so it definitely shifted the industry. Hence why I think you see so many people out here wanting to be coaches now, right? Because there is a demand for it. There are many people who want um, who want more than just where they are right now, right? And so I think it's a beautiful thing on one hand, but my only reservation is, are they really good? uh, are they really good at being a coach? Not all coaches are created equal. Not all therapists are created equal. Not all, practitioners, healing practitioners are created equal, right? And so, while there is a need and necessity for more, there's even more of a greater need for those who are really good and great at what they do. So the pandemic definitely shifted. It definitely made people more susceptible and even vulnerable, I would say, uh, to uh, to coaching, right? And obviously, with that vulnerability, that comes, some predatory coaching, right? Hence, what we've experienced here on Clubhouse, right? People have shared their stories, their horror stories around coaching, um, but it definitely made people more aware of the fact that they need some assistance. And so that's a beautiful thing, right? Awareness and acknowledgement is the first step of anything. So I think it was a good thing, but I think that there wasn't enough resources available to help people to actually get to where they need to get to. Because again, not all coaches are created equal. Not all therapists are created equal. Not all wellness practitioners are created equal.
Mm. Wow, okay. I'm hinging on the very last thing that you said right there. Not all life coaches or not all wellness practitioners are created equal. I like that you've highlighted that, and perhaps that is a way in which some people were able to cope with what has happened in the world better, and some were not. And I think everybody worldwide, to an extent, has been affected by what has happened with the pandemic, and obviously there are other issues which are happening in the world, whereby there are wars and everything, and these affect people in different ways. But to know that there's still life coaches who are working during this period. If anything, this is now a period where you're needed more than ever. People in your profession are needed more than ever because there's so much uncertainty regarding what the the world has in store for people, and people just need somebody there to help them navigate through their life, to help them still find ways to accomplish their goals while not feeling like the entire pressure of the world is solely placed on their shoulders. So it's really good to have life coaches also there. But I thought it would be remiss not to also check out how life coaches have been affected by the pandemic because life coaches are humans as well. And thank you very much for your response, Dr. Pervis. That is it for the life coaching section of the questions, at least from me. Right now, we're going to be delving into a few questions which are in the comment section. But before we do that, Dr. Pervis, I wanted to give you an opportunity to just say something that probably could be on your mind that has nothing to do with questions, just something that you might feel inclined to say or something you've been holding on to during the duration of the room. Is there any such thing that you'd want to say?
It's funny that you said that. There is something I wanted to say, but I think it's more so um, aligned with the book, Heal Forward. So Heal Forward, I'm gonna be very, very brief because I do not like long-windedness. So I'm going to be try to be as concise as possible. So with survival mode, I have the 4 A's of survival mode, which is acknowledgement, acceptance, articulation, and alchemy. Those are the things to help you emotionally process, right? With Heal Forward, I have the 4 V's, which is uh, vision, verified, voice, and vulnerability. And that's the 4 V's to Heal Forward. And the one V that sticks out to me the most is the voice. And I share in the story in the book around being groped by a female celebrity, right? I was groped taking a picture, like she grabbed my butt while I was taking a picture with this celebrity. And I thought about it in the moment how if I did that to her, I would be finished, right? And at the time, I didn't say anything because I didn't know. Like it was traumatizing because never did I anticipate that this celebrity would grope me. Number one, but the reason why I wanted to speak about the power of voice. Voice is the one tool that we have that is so underutilized. Um, had I spoken up for myself in that moment, I probably wouldn't have felt as defeated. I probably wouldn't have had such a traumatic response to it because I was a person who grew up being molested. And so it literally took me back to that place how I didn't speak and advocate for myself at that time. And so I guess the thing that I'm sharing is that I want everyone to be in tune with your voice because when you don't know your voice, you become overpowered by the voices of others. And when you know your voice, you become empowered. And so that moment of being groped, it forced me to take a deep dive into myself and why I hadn't been utilizing my voice the way that I should have been. And at that time, I was a very prominent coach, right? So it was a lesson still for me to utilize my voice. And so I don't know why I'm sharing this, but I just feel like we just need to be more in tune with our voices and speak up for ourselves, advocate for ourselves so that we can get the help and the healing that we need. And I had suppressed that moment of being groped for several years. Um, and obviously, there's a school of thought like, oh my God, it's a compliment that celebrity thinks you're attractive and blah blah. But I didn't ask to be groped, you know? And so that situation has taught me to always utilize my voice because it is a weapon that is for my good. Your voice can heal you or it can destroy you. The power of life and death is in the tongue. But I just want us to be more in tune with our voices, and I just feel like that is the one thing that people come to me the most about for coaching is that they don't know their voice. And so I know it sounds a little bit jumbled, but I just want everyone to be in tune with your voice. There's power in your voice.
Wow, that is really powerful, and I think I just sense that we need somebody to echo back, to echo, or piggyback on this. And I just saw Silk flashing a mic, and Silk always says something powerful. And the moment I saw her flashing a mic, I knew that we had to go to her to just perhaps piggyback off what you just said there, my brother. I know some of the experiences that Silk has gone through in her life, and the way that she looks at them is something that is absolutely magnificent. And so, if you would do us the honors and just grace us with your verbal presence on the stage today, the stage is yours, Queen.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such an awesome experience being in this room because there's so many, not just powerful voices, but thought provoking conversations that's coming about. And I would say, I want to piggyback off of the coaching aspect. I just want people to understand that regardless of who you are choosing to help you in your life. Whether it's a lifestyle coach, it doesn't matter whether it's a psychiatrist, whoever it is, whether you're listening to a spiritual counselor, it doesn't matter. Business coach, the one thing you have to do is you have to engage your discernment. I don't care how many accolades, I don't care who brags about that person. Everybody is not for you. Everybody can't absorb and hear your struggles, your problems, your story. Everybody's not supposed to hear your story or your struggles or help you. It doesn't matter who the the public say they are. It doesn't matter. It might be that one person that just started out in business and someone's been telling them for years, you need to start this because you are so awesome. They've been doing it for years with just family and friends and coworkers, and now they just start their business. So you look, wow, this person only been in business, but then you don't know. See, you're getting them at chapter 10. You don't know what happened 9, 8, 7, 6. You know what I'm saying? So be sure that anytime you sit down with anyone, that they're vibing with you on a mental, physical, all of financial, every the universe, your discernment has to be so strong that you will say, wow, this is the person for me. And if at any time during that consultation you feel anything, that's not the person for you. Your gut is going to tell you who should be in your circle, helping you, lifting you, supporting you, who can actually hear your voice. Have you ever just spoke to someone and they're saying, yeah, I understand. Okay, yeah. And their responses to you are so robotic. And they say, okay, well, that'll be 250, that'll be $500. Or even just a family or friend or coworker, anyone. You know, you know within your gut if someone is either listening or if they're actually hearing you. Because we all can listen because we got ears. But are they hearing you? And it's okay to walk away. It's okay to respectfully say, you know what? I appreciate you. I acknowledge you. But I don't think this is going to work. It's up to you. It's up to you. Like they said, you have a choice and a chance. It's up to you to decide which one you're gonna choose to make a change that's going to be so massive and just so passionate, inspiring in your life. Because people with good intentions can lead you down a road of bad intentions. Not because they want to, because they don't know any better, or maybe they do know it. No, maybe they do know better. It's up to you to use your discernment. This is Silk. Love you guys. I'm done speaking.
Wow. So, as usual, she is exceptional. To anybody who does not know Silk, she is one of the best people you ever meet in terms of just the anointing that she has, and everything that comes out of her mouth is golden. She's like a gold mine. Whenever she speaks, you're going to be getting treasure left, right, and center. And I cannot, you know, I can definitely not say enough good things about Sok. In any room that I've been in, I've always learned from what she has to say. And I just felt she had something powerful to say, which is why I passed over the mic to her, and she definitely hit it out of the park. And part of the reason she's always able to impact people in any space is because she does not only speak from an intellectual point of view, she also speaks from a spiritual point of view. She's somebody who's very in tune not only with her own spirit, but everybody else's spirit who's around her. So she's always saying what someone within the room or what a lot of people within the room need to hear, and something that can benefit them. I would say to anybody who's in the room, please make sure you're paying attention, close attention to Silk's profile and giving her a follow and looking for how you can work with her, because this woman is exceptional. Make sure you're finding ways to get her services, because she is somebody who has so much wisdom, and I appreciate any time that I get the chance to share a stage with her because she is an inspiration personally to me. But like I was saying, she's somebody where whenever she speaks, people learn a lot of things. So, Sok, once again, I appreciate what you had to say right there and the way that you piggybacked off what Dr. Pervis just highlighted. And Dr. Pervis, before we move forward to a few other questions, I wanted to hear what you also thought about some of the things that Sok was just saying there, because I know personally I've learned a lot. And for those who do not know Sok, please make sure you're going to the clubs in the bio and making sure that you follow them so that you never miss the rooms that she does. She is sensational. Dr. Pervis, do you have anything to say regarding what you just heard?
I don't have that much to say other than, she's right. You definitely got to use your discernment. Everyone is not for you. And I think we cheat ourselves because we don't use our discernment enough. I think a lot of us wouldn't be in some of the circumstances we find ourselves in if if we listen to our discernment more. So yeah, absolutely agree with what she said.
Wow. So we are going to be moving on to the next questions, some of them which are in the chat box. In fact, we're not just going to say the questions. I just want to say one or two things that I've seen which are in the chat boxes, which are not necessarily questions. So we've got this fantastic woman. I'm going to say her name right after I finish quoting her. She said, the saying is that you write your first book to break out and get your message across. You write the second book to further the message of the first book. What's next for you to the literally world? So the first part is not necessarily a question, right? And I think this is something which has actually made me really think from a philosophical standpoint. I like the way that that is structured. So thank you for that, Stephanie. And she is a world class author herself. Here's her next question. She said, what's next for you in the literally world? And Dr. Pervis, the stage is yours.
I mean, I definitely anticipate myself writing more books. Um, but I only write when I feel like it's like I have something to say around that. Um, so when I feel like I have something to say, I definitely will start writing another book. Um, but the process of writing a book is so what's the word, arduous at times. And so like when I think of writing this last book, Heal Forward, was such a challenge for me because I was so intentional about making sure that whatever I'm saying, it can be applicable and that I'm not overstepping my boundaries in terms of like the world of therapy and mental health and things like that. It's a very fine line that I walk. Even though I have a clinical psych degree, I still have such respect for therapists, right? And I don't want to step on anyone's toes. And so like whenever I write books, it's challenging because I don't want to cross boundaries. And so when I think about the uh what is it, emotional labor that it takes to write a book, I have to say, is this worth the gamble, the risk? And I always say yes, because it ends up being something that helps the end user's life, right? And so I don't welcome it. I don't walk into it with open arms. I have to feel like it's within me to do. Like it has to feel like it's a yearning within me to write. So, but I definitely know that I will write other books, but I only write when I feel like there's a yearning or a message that needs to be conveyed.
That question came from
Interesting.
Stephanie M. Freeman, Charles.
Yes, good
Oh,
evening.
oh yes, I'd highlighted it with Stephanie.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you, and my hat is off. I understand that Dr. Purvis has many books out there, and I look forward to seeing the books that come out soon, soon, soon. So, congratulations, sir. Continue your awesome work.
Thank you so much.
Hmm. And from one world class
You're
author to another. Thank you again for what you said. So we're transitioning from one world class author to another, and the next one is going to be Nalena Kai, who has been giving extremely good research, but we're going to offer her the opportunity to actually ask a question. Nalena, hopefully you've had the chance to craft the question.
Of course, I'm always ready for questions. I've been enjoying this conversation, and I went to look at his body of work, and Stephanie, kind of asked the question that I would ask about what's next for him in the literary world, because I'm sure that it isn't about book sales for you, Dr. Pervis Taylor. It is about book opportunities. So, what has been the best opportunity that has come for you from having a book? Nalena Kai, and I'm done speaking.
Hey, Nelena. Thank you for that wonderful question. The biggest opportunity, um, gosh, there've been a lot. Um, let me think. I would say just recently, like a whole school district wants to buy copies of my book, and I don't know how that happened. It was God, obviously, but I keynoted a Black History Month event, and the principal, the assistant principal, um, they were giving out copies of my books, and the kids were like fighting to get copies of the book after my speech, and they was just like, "We ain't never seen these kids act crazy over a book." And so the principal was like, "I need to read this." And I ended up doing a professional development for that school district, and they were like, "Oh my God, we got to get copies of this book for the students." She was so impressed by the book, and she said, "I love what you were saying," and she said, "Like I just just think because of where we are, because of the mental health crisis within students and how they were affected by the pandemic, a lot of schools, are looking for whatever they can take to help them successfully, equip the students for life, right?" And so I would say that has been, a huge opportunity. An organization in the UK that's about to come out. Uh, they're about to do a wellness app where they have access to like all these wellness practitioners around the world who are like considered gurus, and I don't consider myself a guru by any means. Um, someone read Thrival Mode, and I didn't know. Someone in the UK read my book, and they referred me to the CEO of this organization. So, it's just been things like that, opportunities like that have I didn't anticipate happening as a byproduct of me just being obedient and writing these books.
That's amazing. Like I said, it's not book sales, it's book opportunities. The sales will come later, but the message is the most important thing when putting the words to the page and your passion on the page. And that's what has come through since I've been listening all of this time, is that your passion for doing what you love. They say, do what you love and the money will follow. So I love that you follow the spirit of God and that still small voice in how you move in and throughout all of the aspects of your career. And I think Charles is being a little humble. He is going to be a published author next month. So I'm just saying, Charles, you'll
Congratulations.
joining the ranks as well. So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you very much, Elena, and thank you, Dr. Pervis. It's just wonderful to see all these questions that are cleverly and wisely crafted, and they're also answered in such a powerful way whereby each and every one of us, regardless of our professions, can be able to apply them, to take them and put them into service. Like each and every one of these responses is something that I've seen myself being able to apply. It's not just bespoke, or it's not just exclusive to the authors. It's not just exclusive to the life coaches. It applies to each and every one of us. And I've just been appreciating that. So thank you very much, Elena, for your very, very powerful question. And then the way that you piggybacked off that when you say that it's book opportunities, not book sales. Again, Elena, very similar to Dr. Pervis, is somebody who values the content she puts out and how it helps people more than the money. And I would say that these are very rare people. These are rare people among rare people because the natural human instinct, right, is to go for what benefits us in terms of money. In fact, if we look at our more primal instincts, it's survival of the fittest, and there is a notion to always think about self, self, self. So we were wired at times to be self-centered, self-serving, and it's not to say that you shouldn't think about yourself. Obviously, there are instances where you have to put yourself first, but I'm always very, very much impressed when I see people who have the ability, and more than the ability, but they have the inclination to put others before them. And I've seen that several times with Nelena, who I know on a personal level. And I've also seen that with Dr. Pervis as a person, before we even speak about him as a life coach and him as an author. So I'll just say to the two of you, you're phenomenal people. And thank you very much for that back and forth that the two of you had. Now we're going to be moving into a few other questions. Just a reminder, we have 45 minutes left of this particular interview slash celebrity event. And I would like to, at some point, have a poll, like whereby we're just going to ask some of the people in the room what they think, because I feel as though there are a lot of people who have preconceptions of what celebrities would be like. And Dr. Pervis, he very much is a celebrity, but the way he's been speaking and the way he's been carrying himself, you would be forgiven for assuming he's just, a regular day, everyday person because he's just so humble. He's so willing to speak with everyone. He's so approachable, right? But it's not something that most people have come to see or know about celebrities. Celebrities tend to be untouchable, right? And the reason why we enjoy having these rooms and these interviews that we set up is so that we're able to also paint the other side of these celebrities because at the end of the day, they're people too. Sometimes they're very busy, and for sure, they will be unattainable or unapproachable because they're extremely busy. But then every now and again when they do get the chance to speak, they really want to pour into each and every person who is around. And this is why these rooms are very essential. We see them as an opportunity for people to be educated, but also to be able to emulate those people who you want to be like, to be able to follow in their footsteps by getting it out of the horse's mouth. They'll be telling you themselves how they navigated through some of the hard times in their lives, some of the difficult terrains within their lives. So this is why these rooms are really, really important to each and every one of us who is involved. That said, we're going to proceed with a few other questions. Like I said, make sure you're using that chat box effectively because you never know how often you get opportunities like this to have somebody of the caliber of Dr. Pervis just answering whatever question you have for him. So make sure you're using that chat box. Of course, do so respectfully. That said, we're going to be moving on to the next question, and I've been saying this for a minute now and not going to it. So the next question is again in the author section, right? And this is one that we're going to ask you, Dr. Pervis, and it also applies to some of some of the authors we have on stage. So if they would like to answer, so that would be Nelena, that would be Stephanie, um, and then a few other authors that we have on stage. 6 years into your craft as a life coach, you decided to publish a mental health focused book that unsurprisingly went on to become a number one best-selling book. Walk us through that. So Dr. Pervis is going to answer his side of how he did what he did, but I'd also like to hear what Nelena and Stephanie were able to do to get to their first best-selling book because they have numerous best-selling books. But then, Dr. Pervis, the question is there for you. I'll reiterate: 6 years into your craft as a life coach, you decided to publish a mental health focused book that unsurprisingly went on to become a #1 best selling book. Walk us through that. The stage is yours, Dr. Pervis.
Okay. So it was 8 years in, 8 years in, before I published Survival Mode. Um, what was the question again? I'm so sorry, I just drew a blank. What was the question?
Oh, the question was, oh, all right, all right. So I would have to adjust that. I was okay. I see what's happening here. They're two
Yeah.
different books. All right. So no, now it makes sense. So I was saying that the question part of it is that you decided to publish a mental health focused book
Yeah.
that unsurprisingly went on to become a #1 best-selling book. And at this
Hmm.
point, you were a life coach. What prompted you to think I have to put out a book out there, even though you were a very successful life coach and you were very much on the ascendancy? What then prompted you to write this book?
Well, I think it was just a sense of urgency. Like I always, like 11 years ago, over 10 years ago, I saw that we were going to be in a crisis with black men and their mental health and just lives in general. And initially, a lot of my work was around doing mentorship work with a lot of young men of color, right? Um, I wrote Survival Mode. I was thinking about my life, and I was thinking about the lives of men that I coached from all walks of life, whether NFL players, whether they were just everyday people. What were the commonalities that we use to get us on the path of wholeness and thriving, right? And so that's what I wanted to write, something comprehensive that was simple, also that didn't disrespect the mental health space, but these are practical tools that people could apply um, in lieu of going to therapy, because I recognize that everybody's just not going to go see a therapist, and a lot of men are not going to see a therapist. So I wanted to write something that was short, like I said, concise, and transparent and vulnerable. Um, I just wanted to be a part of the solution, because I'm a black man, right? Sherlock Holmes said, "Be a student of the obvious." I'm a black man, and I hurt, and I go through things, and I always didn't have the tools that I have now, right? And so I just wanted to give brothers some tools, other than just suppression, other than coping negatively, whether it be promiscuous, being promiscuous or drinking or whatever that may be, right? I wanted to just provide some tools, because I knew so many brothers were hurting, and our suicide rates were alarming at that time, and they were steadily climbing. So I just wanted to just offer something. So that's why I wrote Survival Mode, because I just wanted to help.
Wow, that is absolutely impeccable. You did it because you wanted to help. Some of us would probably be doing it because we're thinking, this is a good way to now use this influence to make more money. But as we covered earlier on during the room, you're not somebody who's driven by money like that. You want to help people. And this is not something that you're saying because it would seem as if it's a correct thing to say. This is something you're saying because you have a burning desire to help people. And that is something that is just fantastic. And like I said earlier, you're rare among rare people, and we do not take that for granted at all. We have two more questions under the. Oh, we have Xavier Bailey. She's also another coach, and she's a business coach to be specific. Xavier Bailey, okay. She popped in and out. I think when she'll be back, we'll have say a little bit of something. But that said, we're going to be moving on to the next question. So we have three questions in total here under the author section, or at least an insight into Dr. Purvis's life as an author. So we have two remaining questions. After that, we're just going to come straight to the comment section, and we're just going to be looking at all the questions that have been put there in the comment section and doing them Dr. Purvis's way. We're left with about, if I'm not mistaken, about 40 minutes until we have to conclude this particular event that I think has been really, really good. And so good that a lot of people wouldn't want it to end. But then make sure you're getting your questions in right now. So I'm going to ask two questions from the list that I have that I created. Then after that, we're going to have everybody else just ask their questions. So do make sure that you are ready with your questions and putting them there in the comment section. That said, the next question, Dr. Purvis, what are what are you most proud of? Your Ivy League education plus doctorate, perhaps your career as a highly touted life coach, or is it in fact your stellar accomplishment as a number one best-selling author? I will reiterate. Uh,
I got to pick, or I
I
can't
you
know,
just
got
say.
it.
right? That's so mean, isn't it? I was like scratching my head, Charles. That's so mean.
What?
Um, I will tell you the thing that I'm most proud of, and it's none of those things. I'm most proud
Wow.
that I'm no longer afraid to be vulnerable. I'm most proud that if I'm hurting, I'm gonna go get help. I'm most proud that I don't pretend anymore. So that's what I'm most proud of. Cause listen, I can, people I know people out here, you look at their social media, you think that they're all good, but then they come to me, they're in shambles. So I'm happy, I'm most proud of that. I am as what you see is what you get for the most part. It may be like a little like 5% that I keep for myself, but pretty much what you see here is who I am.
Charles.
We're trying to get
Mm.
was
No
trying to
problem.
get
I don't
back to
know
the
if you
mic. My
understand if
apologies.
the equivalent of what you ask,
um,
like asking
I,
a mother which is her favorite child.
I'm very much appreciative of the way that you've that because oh, okay. So I think it was a network issue. Am I back now? Yes, I think so. Okay. So that was really, really a profound answer there, Dr. Burvis, because in my mind, I was thinking he's going to select one of them. I was actually trying to think of which one it was. I was like, maybe it's going to be the best-selling author, or perhaps it's going to be the doctorate that he has, one of the two. So that's where my money was. And if anyone had made a bet on any of the three options that I just said, you'd have lost your money because what's most important to him is none of the none of the above. In fact, if anything, like you just say, Dr. Pervis, you care more about the intangibles. You're not somebody who's materialistic, and that is just fantastic. I really did appreciate that answer right there, and I also wish that I can have the same sort of mentality moving forward with certain things in my life because as much as I would say that I'm somebody who also likes the intangibles, I think sometimes I do dwell on the materialistic side of life. And
Ditto. Ditto. You're not alone. I'm just saying that that's what I'm most proud of, though. Truthfully, I'm most proud that I no longer pretend. That's what I'm proud of.
wow, that is powerful because a lot of us probably do pretend and we do it subconsciously. And, you know, again, this is somewhere where a lot of us need to get to in life. I think part of the reason we do pretend is because of our fear of what other people would think of us if we just lived as our authentic selves. It's really the peer pressure and the stigma that comes with being different. So sometimes we feel like we have to adjust the way that we are in order to make those around us feel more comfortable or to be less critical of us. And the fact that you felt you did not need to pretend anymore, I feel everybody needs to get to that stage in their life where they don't need to pretend and they can live life as their authentic selves. So thank you for actually raising that. I think that is something that is really, really important. That said, we're going to be going to the very last question from my list, and then we move on to everyone's question, which will be the comment section. Here's the final question from Charles to Dr. Burvis. Let's discuss male masculinity, male mental health, and of course, discuss what inspired you to create your Heal Forward best-selling book? That's the question. The stage is yours, Dr. Pervis.
Oh my gosh, bro. That's a broad base question. I will just say this, like I've said before, like, well, I'm gonna share this one truth. Depression in Black boys and Black men looks different than any other demographic, right? So, you know, we don't have the typical symptoms that other people exhibit, right? Um, and I know that, and I've always known that. I've always known that instinctively because I was depressed most of my life. But I achieved. I was in honors program. I was, signed to Wilhelmina. I work at Def Jam, all those things, but I was depressed the whole time. And I just knew that I couldn't be the only person. Um, I want I want to be whole. I want to flourish. I want to thrive. And I know that I can't be the only man that wants that. Um, I'll never forget, a Bible study teacher of mine said that men scream at a frequency that only they can hear. And that was so true because I was screaming most of my life and no one heard it. Um, I didn't feel I had permission to bring that internal scream out into the atmosphere where it can be healed, right? And so I wanted to give men permission to scream externally, because that scream externally, we can handle that, we can deal with that, we can get you the help you need, but we can't help you if that scream is internal, right? And so I just wanted to shift, I guess, what we define as toxic masculinity, um really more so in the aspect of it's okay to deal with your emotions. That makes you very much masculine, to deal with your emotions and knowing how to be responsible for them and knowing how to process and knowing how to make healthy decisions and knowing how to um, engage in healthy conflict and have healthy dialogues and expanding your emotional lexicon. All those things are essential that will not only benefit you, but it also will benefit your partners, also benefit your life, and other people will benefit from you being well and whole. And so I think for me, I wrote Heal Forward. Most of the time, women heal with the future in mind, men heal with the past in mind. And so I wanted men to just say, like, I know we've made mistakes, I know we've done some messed up things in the past, but it don't stop there. We heal, we forgive ourselves, we make amends with that, but we do it not only to just make amends, but also to build a future. There's still life left to be lived. And so that's why I call the book Heal Forward, because I wanted men to heal with the future in mind, not with the past. And we're entitled to be whole. We're entitled to experience goodness. We're entitled to experience abundance. And so that's why I wrote Heal Forward.
Wow. I think I've probably said wow for the most times in my life within a 2 or 3 hour time period. And I have you to thank for that. That's something that I definitely right now I need to digest everything that you just said because it is hard hitting. Man, uh wow. When you say men, could you just reiterate that or would you say that one more time? I think you said men scream at the frequency.
That only they can hear.
Wow. Men scream at the frequency that only they can hear. Wow. That is powerful. That is powerful. That has made me really start to think more and more, and that is very true in many ways. When we do scream for help, nobody will be able to actually hear it, right? It'll be just only us. And having a book like that in place, it'll be something that can help a lot of men feel as though they can, like you say in your book, heal forward. And I feel too many times we, especially as men of color, there are certain things that we immediately deem as incorrect as a man. We feel as though it is something that a man shouldn't do, and we're sort of raised with this type of demeanor, with this type of methodology where we just think we have certain levels of sensitivity that we cannot exhibit, and nothing could be further from the truth. So I'm happy that you're touching on that. That is fantastic. That said, if we have anybody that would like to piggyback off what Dr. Purvis just said right now, uh, now would be your time before we move on to the few remaining questions that might be there in the comment section. But if you just want to piggyback off what Dr. Purvis did say, go right ahead, just state your name and the stage will be yours.
Nalina Kai. Those three quotes, especially the one about women heal with the future in mind, men heal with the past in mind, and of course the one about the frequency, are those quotable to you? I would love to share those on my other platforms, and I want to know that this originated with you.
Yes, the last two originated with me. The frequency. My Bible study teacher. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. What is his name? Chris Burge.
Chris,
Chris Burge.
Chris Birch, spelled Birch.
Burge. Burge.
Burge. Okay, but the
Yeah.
other two about the women and meal.
Yeah, that's me.
Those.
That's me.
Thank you. I appreciate, and I can use this in a quote in the article as well. Yes.
Yes, you may. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Do we have anybody else who'd like to actually, ask something, or somebody who would like to piggyback off what Dr. Pervis had just said right there? And I'm surprised that this is something that, had never been said before you said it, Dr. Pervis. That is something that's fantastic that you can be quoted on that. I like that. I like that a lot. And when you say that, it sounded like something I hadn't heard before. That's why I needed to ask again and again what you just said right there. I think that was profound. That said, do we have anybody who wants to piggyback off what he just said, or what he has been saying for what, 3 hours or so? Does anybody want to say something in response to him? Something about what you think about him? The stage is open right now. Just state your name and you can jump right in. Okay, good. So right now we're going
Hey, y'all don't like me? What happened?
I like you. I like you.
you stun them all into silence. That's what's happening. You see, I probably when we started off this interview, I was somebody who was just, the words were flowing, right? It was on automatic settings. But then when you spoke more and more, I just started really get. I was at a loss for words, literally. So when I want to respond to what you're saying, I wouldn't be able to do so because my brain cannot catch up with my mouth, right? Because or in fact, rather, my mouth cannot catch up with my brain, because the way that I've been made to feel by what you'd have said would just be so profound. Like, I wouldn't have felt that way from, you know, hearing somebody speak about the topics that we're speaking about today. So I feel like a lot of people are experiencing that right now, where they're just soaking in everything that you've been saying. But that said, not to worry. To those who are yet to really discover what question they can ask him, we do have some questions in the chat box, and the one that we're going to be going to is from Dr. Calendar. Hopefully, I'm saying it correctly. She said that I have a question for Dr. Purvis. Do you work with clients that have a severe case of sexual trauma, and that, all right, yeah, I think that's just it. We'll ask it that way. Do you work with clients that have a severe case of sexual trauma?
Yes, and I have. I mean, obviously, I would strongly recommend that you work with a therapist, but I would work with you in terms of like what goals are you wanting to achieve while you're in the process of healing from that. So that would be the aspect in which I would work with someone, um, or who's dealt with sexual trauma. So you're working with your therapist, but you still need to be building your life in the process. Um, and so that would be the aspect in which I would work with a client.
Thank you very much for that response right there. Hopefully, that was a question well answered to the lady who asked it. That was Dr. Calendar. I'm not sure if she's still in here. I might be pronouncing it incorrectly, but we're going to be moving on to yet another question. That is from Compassion. So Compassion said, favorite way to get dialed into the zone, flow state. Now, moment before giving your session. All right. I think that my punctuation was off while reading that, but I think you can get a sense of what the question is asking.
Yeah.
Go right ahead, Dr. Pervis.
I always say a prayer. Like I'm always like, Lord, use me. Um, but if it's like if I'm doing like group coaching, if I'm working with the organization, I'm doing a coaching session, it's definitely a party. I'm definitely have on some, some music. I'm dancing. I love to dance. So I'm having like a little party in my room and on the way to to the event. But yes, always prayer and usually some music. That's the way I get into it.
All right.
I appreciate that, Dr. Purvis. This is a great vibration, great energy in this space. I'm learning so much, and the vulnerability. I love that answer. Yeah, not so much of a deflection from the three big ones, but that's the truth that I'm really seeing in your personality is the authentic vulnerability is the king over any sort of single accomplishment. So I'm really grateful I found this space today, and thank you so much.
Thank you for that. I think people don't realize that achievement can be a trauma response. And, so a lot of not all achievements are created equal, you know? I think it's a great manifestation of something, but a lot of times what we see as achievement is a trauma response. And so, like, when I think about some of my accomplishments, some of that was on purpose to not deal with the things that I should have been dealing with. And so, accomplishments are great. And I'm not trying to shade anyone. Your accomplishments are great. All accomplishments are great. But sometimes the sourcing of it is not always authentic. And so I wanted to be proud of something that was truly authentic to me.
Wow. So we're going to be moving over to the next question. And the next question is from Crystal Coleman. I don't know how I hadn't seen this particular question, but I think it was one of the very first questions I was asked. So possibly we're living the best for last. And I think we're living the best for last here. So Crystal Coleman said, how much did his faith play a part in his career?
Oh gosh. Faith is everything, man. I had to believe, like the vision, and I knew that it was gonna be a turbulent journey, but I'm just such a big picture thinker that sometimes I kind of, I'm reminding myself of some of the bumpy roads along the way, but um I just, I focus so much on getting to what my big picture is. And I think somebody asked that in the chat box, like, what's my big picture? I Super Soul Sunday. That is my big picture. Um, you know, Oprah, um, just being that go-to person in a more public way. Like, I have dreams and desires, and I like celebration is one of my love languages, and so that's definitely one of my big pictures. And, like, being in front of more faces, having my voice amplified, having the work more amplified. Um, but yeah, faith was everything. It was the beginning of everything. I dared not mention that Jesus was the reason why I went on this journey and stayed on it in spite of all of the turbulence that I've experienced. But yeah, faith is a huge deal.
Thank you very much. So I think we've exhausted the questions. We're going to be stepping into the final phase of the room. Before that, I did see somebody who popped in, and I'd want to give her the opportunity. In fact, there are two people I'd like to give the opportunity to ask questions. So we have Sally Cullen as well as Michael Matthews. If you'd like to ask some questions directed towards Dr. Pervis, go right ahead. Sally Cullen, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Charles. I just kind of came in, so I was listening, of course. But I'll throw a question in there. Why not? So you work with clients, you're a life coach, right? Mostly to celebrities or like, the regulars as well?
Yes, I work with everyone. I
You
work
work
with
with
everyone.
everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel is your specialty or the one thing that like really excites you when someone says, "Here are my issues, can you help me?" Like where do you feel like you're the most like your specialty is in helping people?
I think it's like in helping them to discover their dopeness. I think so many people aren't aware of how amazing they are. And so that's really like it's funny, I do an icebreaker whenever I'm doing a corporate training. And I always ask, if you had a superpower, what would it be? And everyone's like, I'd be invisible, I would fly, I would do time travel, blah, blah, blah. And mine has always been I would touch people and they could see how amazing they are. So that's my thing, is helping people to discover. I think when you think about life is like building blocks and the foundation has to be firm. If you're not sure about who you are, if you don't know that you're dope, then there's no point in building other things. So we got to get to that foundation. And so for me, it's like that's the start of everything. Is, do you know who you are? Do you know how amazing you are? If so, okay, then we can build upon that. But a lot of times, even with celebrities, they can't even tell me things about themselves that they find amazing, right? In spite of all the things they've accomplished or achieved. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be my thing.
So follow up, if that's okay, follow up question to that
Go ahead, go ahead.
is, what are your, because I know with life coach, I'm also a life coach, but I know with life coaching, it's about what questions you're asking that's going to tap into,
Absolutely.
right? So what
Yeah.
do you think are your top three, let's say, questions that opens them up?
Um, what do you know to be true?
Hmm.
That's the one. What do you know to be true?
That's a good one.
Yeah. That's usually that's usually the first question. And then what do you want?
Hmm.
And my clients hate when I ask that question.
Because they want you to know what they want,
Yes,
right?
exactly. They want me to know.
That's
So,
right.
I would say those two. What do you know to be true, and what do you want? It is like I have one client. He gets so pissed, like his face turns red. He's like, "I knew you about to ask me this damn question." And I'm like, so, what do you want? I don't know what I want. I was okay, okay,
That's good.
yeah. So it would be those two.
Thank you. It's great.
Right. And we have come to the back end of this particular interview. Thank you to everybody who has been here. And I think we had in total probably, I was trying to remember how many. We had 6 or 7 journalists on stage who were just covering the room. They're going to be putting out articles about what has been going on in this room. And we're happy that everybody has been a part of this room, chose to use their Sunday this way. And we also had several prominent people on the stage as well. I think if my math is not off, we had 12 verified public figures who were on the stage at some point in time. Right now, we still have a few who are still here. I think we have K Fish, we have Dr. Pervis, we also have, who was the other person I was about to say, Amy Purple Rain. And very soon, in coming weeks, Amy is actually somebody who's going to be having a room about her. So to make sure you're looking out for her as well. She's on stage, one of the moderators. But as is tradition, anytime that we have these rooms, the moderators who are there towards the back end, we usually like to give them the adoration that they deserve. We usually like to highlight what it is that they do professionally, appreciate them, and in many ways, it's not just giving them their credit, but it's also creating an opportunity for some people who may be in the room who do not personally know these people and know how powerful and prominent they are. If you get a chance to know that, perhaps you then take that opportunity to reach out to them and see whether you can find a way to network with them, whether they can be able to propel you forward regarding some of the things you're working on in your life. So, right now, this is probably my favorite phase, and we're getting into it. Dr. Pervis needs no introduction. Thank you very much, Dr. Pervis, for being here and giving your all to this room, just pouring into everyone. We're going to be moving forward to Judy. Now, Judy, I like to call her the superstar. Judy and I have been tied since I was on the app, and she's always been very supportive of anything that I'm a part of. And I'd like to say that this is something that I'm a part of. It's not my space, it's our space. So anything that I'm a part of, Judy loves to support. So thank you very much, Judy, for being here. And Judy is a very, very talented hair care provider, and she has her two really, really good brands. You can just go check them out. She's got Sweet Drops beard oil, as well as something for your scalp too. So you would need to just check that out. It's on her page. She's doing pretty well for herself. She's got two pages. I think the other one is at what, 1 or 200K, and that's a hair care product. And then she has Sweet Drops hair care brand, which has IG page that is at 40 something K. I think 41 or 42K. I could be mistaken, but she is a really, really astute hair care professional, and she has been able to create so many wonderful experiences there on the IG just by people giving testimonials of what using her products did for them. So please make sure you reach out to Judy if you're looking for hair care products. She is sensational when it comes to that. And if you're a brand ambassador in the room or an aspiring brand ambassador, you'd want to work with a big brand, reach out to Judy Sweet Drops, who's right next to Dr. Pervis. Then we have Claudine. Claudine, thank you very much for coming into this room all the way from England. We have our British contingent in the room. It's always good to have people from all over the world. And Claudine is a talented actress as well as, I won't even say an aspiring TV host because she's in the process of actually doing that. So very soon you're going to see a really big show that will be done by Claudine. She's very talented, one of the most talented people that I've met, and she's a very loving woman, very endearing, and it's good to have her here. She's somebody who's also humble. She's not all about her accolades, but if you take a chance to look at her bio and you look at her body of work as an actress, you'll be able to see that she is pretty much a big deal, and she is also somebody who's running some big companies, and I think you will see more of that in her bio. I wanted to talk about the company that she currently runs, that she started several years back with her ex-partner. That's something that's not in her bio, but it's a really big company, and any artists that are in the room right now, you want to check in with Claudine because she can help elevate your career. Then we also have Nelena Kai, who is a #1 best-selling author. She is a phenomenal person. She is doing big things, and Nelena always raises the level. I'm happy I was able to meet somebody like her in my life. The moment that I met Nelena, because I met her here on the Clubhouse platform, when I met Nelena, I felt as though I'd met my family. The very first day that I met her, I just felt this is my family, just there and then. And I never really feel like that about anyone. And it's good to have her here. But then my personal relationship with Elena aside, she is a remarkable world class author who has such a deep resume when it comes to having best-selling books. She is anything that she touches turns to gold when it comes to the literary world. And you need to make sure that you're tapping in with her. She is not called the book whisperer for nothing. If you're looking to have a book that you're putting out that you want to get to a top stage in terms of being globally recognized, Elena's your woman. She knows how to help you the entire process. So do make sure you reach out to her. Serious offers only, please, people. That is Elena Kai. And then we also have Gino Jolly. Gino Jolly, I definitely appreciate you coming through. He is extremely supportive. He is always here helping out in terms of moderating. And in terms of his career, he's actually a producer and visual artist manager. So I know there are a lot of people who are in the music space and they would want to work with people who know exactly what they're doing and who know their craft. Look no further than this man when it comes to production work, and when it also comes to helping you out with the videos that you might want to do, because he is a visual artist manager. He has worked with several artists himself, and he is currently based in the city. I don't know what it should be called, the city of dreams. I don't know what London is called, but he's based in England, and I would say that that is one of the best cities on the planet, also one of the most expensive cities on the planet. So if you're ever in that neck of the woods and you're visiting and you want to reach out to somebody who can really help out your artists, go ahead and reach out to Gino Jolly. But he can also do it remotely from the UK while doing it online for your artists wherever they may be it in the US or the other parts of Europe. So just make sure that you're reaching out to him. We also have ECMD when we speak of legendary musicians. Look no further than ECMD. So that's owned by Kermit. That's the company ECMD Experience, and they have worked with the biggest, some of the biggest artists in the world. They've worked with Michael Jackson, Tupac, Sir Elton John, The Beatles, MC Hammer, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Adele, Usher, Eminem, and more. So basically, they've worked with the biggest musicians in the history of music, and that says a lot. Just knowing that, and it's very humbling to see that ACMD is in these rooms and is supporting these rooms. I would say to any artist who's looking to go to the next level, you definitely want to work with ECMD. Several plaques, several Billboard topping, and obviously you talk of Grammys, they're now tired of having artists that win those. So you need to make sure that you are definitely getting in touch with ECMD, currently on the phone right now, but then make sure you do reach out to them. We also have K-Sims, and K-Sims in partnership with ECMD2 is and on the music side of it, actually performing side of it. So you want to make sure that you are tapping in with K Sims. K Sims is also in the production side of things for ECMD, and you would be well advised to check through the bios of both ECMD and K Sims. Thank you again for being in this room. Definitely appreciate you. We have the wonderful Cleo and Money. Cleo and Money, it's always good to have you here. And Cleo Money, as anybody does know, she used to be a very, very top tier model, and she branched really well. She transitioned into becoming an entrepreneur. She currently is an investor. And for those people who are looking to build, because I think it's always good to build a residual income, to have some passive income coming in, because you're not going to work every single day till you die. Well, there are people who try to do so, but it's wise to have some investment in place. Cleo Amani is somebody that you definitely want to tap in with, because that is her area of expertise, and she is somebody who very much embodies the phrase knowledge is key. So you want to make sure you're tapping in with thank you very much, Cleo Mani, for being here. She's always very supportive, and she's a phenomenal person. And then we move on to Ty Banks. Ty Banks, appreciate you coming through. You know, he has been here for the duration of the room, and he's just been supporting. Ty Banks is actually somebody who is running the TMZ Pittsburgh scene. So you need to make sure that you're checking out what he is doing. He's doing some really fantastic stuff. He is a very, very um, proficient blogger, vlogger. I definitely recommend people to check out what Ty Banks is doing. He's also really good at being a host. We have Khadija Mohammed. Khadija, thank you very much for coming through. I definitely appreciate you here. Um, so Khadija is an artist designer. She's also, sorry, my bad. I want to say Khadija Renee. Always, I always mess that up. But anyway, she is an artist and designer. She's also a songwriter. She's a voiceover artist, and she is somebody who is always adding value to whichever stages she's in. And I definitely recommend people to go and check out her bio as well. If you look to work with her, to those artists or producers, whoever you might be in this room and you're in the music space and you're looking for some talent, Khadija is definitely talented. Then we have Ursula, one of my favorite people in the world. She's also from the UK. That is my sister right there. And she takes serial entrepreneur to a whole new level. If you go check out Ursula's pages, which are all doing phenomenally well, she it's difficult to understand how she makes it all balanced because she does a lot. So it's good to have Ursula here today. Ursula is just somebody who is phenomenal. And Ursula has her mini influencers brand that's called Mini Mills, where if you're looking for kids wear, she can definitely be able to provide that for you. And then she has kids who are actually modeling certain clothes. So if you have clothing companies where you're trying to bring some traction to the kids brands or kids collection that you have, look no further than Esther Mills. She is extremely adept when it comes to that. She does a fantastic job. And then we move forward to my brother K Fresh, that is Kevin, and he has over 2 million followers on Instagram alone, verified on IG. But you wouldn't know it from how humble he is. Last week, the room that we had, he was headlining, co-headlining with Curtis Richardson, who's also on stage. And K Fresh is an extremely intelligent young man who is just doing big things. He continues to rise level and level. And we'll actually have some articles coming out about K Fresh and Curtis in the coming weeks pertaining to the interview that they did last week, and just also giving you a little bit of some insight into their lives and some of the big things that they have been working on, how they got to where they are today. So do make sure you're checking out K Fresh. And he is very rapidly rising. You know, right now, what, 2 million IG followers? Check again in maybe a year's time or so. That'll be 10 million. He'll just be rising. He's doing very big things. We also have Karan in the building. Karan, I appreciate you being here, my brother. Karan is manager of artists, but then what he is mainly doing, right, is he works with a finite group of artists. He doesn't like working with too many. So right now, I think he's got 5 or 6 under his belt because he really wants to focus on them. And he does everything from helping them manage their social media to helping them manage their trips, their finances, everything. So this gentleman is definitely top tier when it comes to artist management. And if you're lucky enough to work with him, uh, that would be just such a blessing. Do reach out to them if you have artists or you have got somebody that you know, a record label that's looking for artist managers. Perhaps Quran might be willing to consider them. Then we also have, I'm just going to touch a little bit on Curtis since I'd already spoken about K Fresh, then I'll come right back up to talks. Curtis Richardson, he was having his room as well. They co headlined together with K Fresh. It was a wonderful experience that was there. And for those who do not know Curtis Richardson, he's a multi platinum songwriter, producer, and A&R. He is also an NARAS voting member. He is just somebody who's done so many big things in terms of the artists that he has directly worked with and helped transform and build up. Look no further than Jennifer Lopez. who he really worked with extensively at the genesis of her career when she was still coming up, and even in present day. The same thing with Rihanna, who he has produced. Same thing with David Guetta. Same thing with Tiesto. John Legend as well. Curtis Richardson has worked with several big people. In fact, he himself is a very prominent figure. You can go check him out. He's also verified on the social medias, on IG and everything. And he is somebody who is continuing to do big things. He is more of a behind the scenes person, but he is definitely branding out more because he knows that he can help more people in terms of just inspiring them if they know of his stories and his otherworldly accomplishments, because he has worked with literally every big person you can think of in the industry. He's very humble and he's always about equipping other people. So he is a very, very dear friend to me. I consider him a brother, and it's good to have you here as well, Curtis Richardson. So, to any artists who are looking to work with somebody, I tell you, look no further than Curtis Richardson. And then we move forward to Talks. Talks, thank you very much for coming in here. And just yesterday, I was actually in Talks Property Investment Room. He is a guru when it comes to that. He's a multi-million dollar investor who is doing very big things for himself and also for the African community, because he inspires a lot of young Africans to try and to capture their imagination. He wants them to do something different despite whatever their situation might be and where they could have started. Talks did not have an easy life coming up, but now he's a very, very big time prominent person who is working quite diligently to continue to rise above and to continue to show people that from the very, very lowest points of the earth and the very, very lowest points of somebody's life, you can rise from there and become somebody who is very, very successful and prominent businessman. And that's what Talks has done. He has his property investment rooms. I recommend everybody to check those out. For as long as I've known this man, I've really adored him. He's extremely perceptive, intelligent, and wise. So good to have you here, Talks. Thank you for coming through. We also have Casey. Casey is somebody who calls herself the momager. I repeat, as momager. So she's a mom and then she's a manager. And if you look at her children, you see that they're extremely talented, and the place where they've gotten to is just testament of their mother's vision and support for those children, because she knew that music is not necessarily the most conventional route for for children to go. As parents, I'm sure what we usually like to do is just force children to be like, okay, you're going to become a doctor, you're going to become an engineer, a dentist, a this, a that. the we usually want them to go for the more mainstream white collar jobs that we're used to, and music is something that's really difficult for most parents to get behind. Most children have to do it behind their parents back. But when I think of Casey, the same thing also goes for Esther. When I think of those two, the way that they're supporting their children to do phenomenal things and to follow their hearts, it's just fantastic. So Casey, in my opinion, I've always said this to her. I've always said this to Ursula and Les as well. You're one of the best mothers that I've ever come across. You're sensational. Continue to do what you're doing. And Eunice, thank you very much for coming through. I definitely love that UK accent. Eunice is just a fantastic person, and she is super smart. She's actually a lawyer, and anybody who messes with me now, you see, I've got Eunice on my side. She would definitely be coming through with that lawsuit. She is extremely talented. And the other day, I figured out that Eunice also likes football like I do. Now I just need to figure out which team she supports. Otherwise, that could be the difference between us becoming really, really good friends and us becoming enemies. But jokes aside, Eunice is a fantastic person who is she's got Ghanaian descent and she stays in the UK. And like I said, she is somebody who is a lawyer. So for anybody who is looking to work with somebody who is mentoring aspiring lawyers, or somebody who's looking to actually work with a lawyer on retainer, you could look to search more about Eunice and see how you can work with her. And then we've got Amy Purple Rain. She is also another verified music artist who's on stage. We have several today, and she is exceptional. She was actually a battle rapper, and I couldn't imagine it when I saw Amy. If you look at her, she's just literally um, the most adorable and extremely beautiful person you encounter. But then when you actually check her battle rap days, you see that she's really the real deal. So she is somebody who is very fascinating. But besides the battle rap days and her being a battle rapper, she is actually performing artists nowadays. She is also a healthcare provider. She's just a jack of all trades, and I very much love always having Amy in any space. She is sensational. And to any artists who want to work with somebody who is very much on the rise, who is gradually becoming a juggernaut in the music industry, you want to reach out to Amy Purple Rain, and she will definitely respond in kind. We also have Eli, who is on stage. Eli, I very much appreciate the fact that you're here as well. Eli is somebody who is an investigator by profession, for those who are wondering what it is that he does. And then in terms of certifications, I think Eli is certified in 7 different things. He is very much a learned man who is always looking to improve and enhance his skills. But in terms of what truly does stand out about him in terms of his profession and what you could hire him for, he is an investigator, and he does that extremely well. Not just one type of investigation. He's very much adept at any form of investigation that you want, uh, and he is truly somebody who's connected on this app and off this app. So if you're looking for somebody who can open doors in your life, you want to work with Eli. We move forward to Sharon. Sharon, it's always a pleasure to have you on the stage. That is Sharon, and she is a Taiwanese speaker. She's based in the US, and she's always coming through here. She's always supporting. She actually studied multimedia, so currently she is a photography specialist as well as a graphic designer. For anyone who is in the room who may feel that they need those type of services, definitely look no further than Sharon Hang. And then we have Scrap, big bro Scrap. Who doesn't know Scrap? I think everybody in here knows Scrap. He is a sensational person, as I had alluded to before. He has worked with big celebrities such as Whitney Houston, Usher, and several others, really. And what stands out to me about Scrap more than anything else is not his resume, it's who he is as a person. He genuinely wants to help people. He's very similar to Dr. Pervis in that he wants to help people. That is how everything he does is structured. It first starts with how can I help people? Then after that, if he can be able to make money or provide money for others while doing so, that is something that he would do. But the first thing that he thinks about is how can I help people, and then everything else comes after. So I'm very much an admirer of Scrap, and for any artists or any people who are in the building right now who want to work with a producer who is top tier, top echelon, who is world class when it comes to music production, look no further than Scrap. But beyond just that, if you're looking for somebody who can also be a mentor for you in terms of how to best brand yourself, look no further than Scrap. And if you want to get one of the best books that you can find, Scrap has his book that is Billionaire and Social Digital Currency, which is available online. I believe it's $9.99. You can definitely go ahead and get it. That is Scrap right there. If you go through his bio, you'll be able to find out more about him. And then we have Nez, who's on stage. Nez, thank you very much for being here. Definitely appreciate you being here. And, he is another author. We have several of them on stage. So everyone has a wide array of, moderators to connect with. Whatever it is that you might need, definitely take that step. They don't bite. They're not unapproachable. They will definitely reach out back to you if they know that you're from this room. I would actually advise people in this room right now who want to connect with these moderators, try to do so during this room so that you stand out. After this room, they'll be getting back to their busy lives. There's no guarantee that they'll be able to see your message, let alone get back to you. But then if you try so right now, who knows what could happen? So Leighton, he's an author. He's also somebody who's a mentor, similar to Dr. Pervis, and he is a business and personal credit expert. So for those people trying to get their credit right, definitely do reach out to our nurse. We have got Kahisha. Kahisha, thank you very much for being in the building. Kahisha is always supporting, and she has a terrific online boutique. And then here's the kicker. If you go and you let her know that you're from Clubhouse and you're getting a product, you're going to get 10% discount off. So that's really fantastic. And I always thought that was a really cool thing that she included in there. So again, like I was saying, try and reach out probably as early as right now while you're still in this room. Tell the person where you're from and see how you can connect. When it comes to Kaisha, she's gonna give you a 10% discount off. So I think there's nothing not to like. So thank you very much for being in here, Kaisha. She is also, she's definitely a very multifaceted, and like I've said, she has a boutique, she's a CEO. But I think what truly stands out about Kaisha for as long as I've known her is her humility. She is one of the most learned people on this platform today, one of the most well educated, well rounded people. When it comes to accolades, she has studied several things. And she has not gone to just mid tier type of tertiary institutions. She's gone to the best of the best, the creme de la creme, such as HBCU, and she has really been able to achieve several big things in her life. But then again, she is one of the most humble people, so you wouldn't know it if you did not reach out to her and find out more about that. But like I said, her online boutique, that's something you definitely need to check out. And thank you for being here, Kaisha. We have Victoria, Queen Victoria, in the building, and she is an actor as well as a model. And Victoria, it's always good to have you here. It's always good to have you supporting. She is also multilingual. I'm a little bit jealous. She speaks she speaks French, Spanish, and I think she also speaks Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. Which, wow, that's a handful right there. I am in awe of that. Oh, not to mention, she's very fluent when it comes to English. I've always been a little bit not jealous. That's not the right word, but between you and I, oh, I'd say a little bit jealous about people who are able to speak three or four different languages. I've got two languages, and that's about it. I used to be able to speak four or five whilst I was younger, but when you get older to be able to still speak all those languages, that's sensational. So I just want everybody to understand that Victoria is super talented. And this means that she can act in literally any language, basically any of the mainstream languages: French, English, Spanish. Those are the mainstream languages you can think of. She can act in each and every one of those languages. And she's a model. She is, if you check out her IG page, you see that she's actually really doing some wonderful stuff as far as rising as a model. And she has got several acting gigs that, I still remember some point last year, she was just telling me, Charles, I'm super busy. I'm getting an acting gig after an acting gig. I have to go to the studio. She reminds me a lot of Claudine, because Claudine is going through the same thing right now, whereby, they're very, very, very busy as actors. So it's good to have her here, and it's good to have them make their time uh, to put some time aside on their weekends, on their rest days, and think, you know what, I'll come through to this room. So I do not take it lightly that you're here, Victoria. I definitely do appreciate you. Then we have Sally Collins. Sally Collins, thank you very much for being here today. She obviously came on the back end, and then she stole the show with all those fantastic questions. That was phenomenal, and to an extent, to an extent, it's not fair because she is. This is like she's so multifaceted. Basically, any field she'll probably dominate. If you go ahead and check her bio, you'll be able to learn a little bit more about who she is as a person, what she does. But then she's been a TV host for over 20 years. So at the end of the day, when it comes to questioning, I think a lot of people saw that she came in here, she just had an immediate flow. Anyone else, I wouldn't have done that too, in terms of just placing them on the spot and be like, you've just come into the room. What's your question for for Dr. Pervis? Anyone else would probably have gotten stuck, started to stutter, or probably left the room immediately. But then with Sally Cullen, she shined like the star that she is. She is somebody who, like I said, is a producer as well as a director. She has won several awards. You name it, she's won it. And oh, there's one thing that I did not actually know about Sally. I did not know that you were also a singer. I knew most of the things about you, but I did not know that you were a singer. I knew that you were a humanitarian. I knew that you were doing really good work with mentoring teen girls. I knew most of that, but I did not know that you're also a singer. So, Sally, I think the best question I can ask you right now, and then please do come off your mic, is what is it that you do not do? Because it seems like you do everything. You're talented at everything.
Well, the one thing that's on my bucket list is to be a showrunner for a major television network show. So that's the one thing that I feel like I haven't done, but trust me, I have my eyes on it and I will be doing it soon. So there you go.
The power of the words, and I definitely believe that you will be doing it. I definitely believe that you will be doing it. We're going to be moving forward to. I think Kermit, and Andrew would be the last moderators, and after we have highlighted them, we'll just conclude the room and cap it off. But thank you to everybody who has come through. So Kermit, for those who do not know him, uh, he is the owner of ACMD. He's on stage. He's on the second row of moderators. And you can see a plaque of Mariah Carey as the profile picture. Like I told you, they've worked with just about everybody. Michael Jackson, Tupac, Elton John, the Beatles, MC Hammer, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Adele, Usher, Eminem, Ed Sheeran, and many more. This is just really phenomenal. And if you would like to work with Kermit, there is a number right there that you could text. And if you text that number, Kermit will definitely get back to you, or you can reach out via the email that is there in the bio. And then hopefully you're able to work with a legend like Kermit. Very humble, but also somebody who's very serious when it comes to his craft. So you need to make sure that if you're approaching regarding any music arrangements or anything, you definitely are very intentional about what you're doing and you're committed. That said, we're going to. I
Thank you
think
so much for that,
that's a
Charles. I want to say I definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much. Also, most people on Clubhouse know me for one thing, and that's finding this guy homeless in 1992. His name was Lazy Bone, and I invested in his career. Then I met his group, Bone Enterprise, and then they went on to sell over 50 million records worldwide. That's what most people know me for here, but that's only a small part of what I've done. Thank you for this wonderful room, and I'm complete.
My pleasure, my brother. You're definitely an icon, and your humility is always what stands out about you. You're going to continue to keep rising. We're going to also move forward to the next person. I believe the next person would be Andrew, and then that's it. We're going to wrap it up after Andrew. Otherwise, the moderators are going to keep coming. So we've got Andrew Rollins, and Andrew Rollins first came to our rooms last week, and he was a very integral part of that particular interview. Thank you very much for being here. In terms of Andrew, he is an Emmy award-winning songwriter. So right out the gate, he's extremely talented. He's also a He's also a musician as well as producer, in addition to being a songwriter. As aforementioned, he's been featured on just about everything that's a big publication or considered a big publication, such as ABC, HBO. He's definitely doing some big things. You want to make sure that you're checking him out and seeing how you can network with him. That is Andrew Rollins. Definitely appreciate you coming through, my brother, even though it is the back end of the room. Thank you as well to Michelle and Frank the Barber. They're exceptional moderators. They've come through to the room. This is the back end of the room. And obviously, we now do need to cut it short and end it. But then here's what I'm just going to leave everybody with who's in the room right now. You're all fantastic people who can achieve anything that you put your minds to. All of you. And there's never a finishing line. You had somebody who's as accomplished as Sally Collin telling you that she's still got certain things that she has on her radar that she wants to achieve. So I want everybody in here to know that regardless of where you are, everyone has aspirations. And the difference between those who achieve those aspirations and the ones who do not is often the belief that they have in themselves, right? Put everything else aside, such as work ethic and the plan that somebody has. Belief is one of the hardest things to have and to retain. It might be easy to believe in yourself initially when you want to do something, but to survive the test of time is very difficult. So, if you're able to retain that belief over an extended period of time, that often becomes the difference between those that make it and those that do not make it. I say this from experience, and I think several other people who have achieved feats of greatness who are here would echo the same sentiments. So, thank you again to Dr. Pervis for being here. He has had over 800 people come into this room in and out, and they came all for him. I think none of them regretted that time. Dr. Pervis, thank you very much. Any last words as we are ending the room, Dr. Pervis?
Just again, thank you, and thank you all for listening to me. And I'm just really, really grateful, and I hope that something I said resonated with you. And again, I just my whole mission is to help people to flourish and to thrive. And yeah, thank you again for having me. God bless everybody.
Right, that is a wrap. Thank you to everyone who came through. We're about to end the room in the next 5 seconds. That is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have an amazing week on purpose, in Elena Kai's words. Cheers.
Namaste.